looks pretty uniform in color, and even up into Suffolk, we're not seeing any debris getting detected there, lofted into the atmosphere, which would indicate a tornado either on the ground or was on the ground within the last couple of minutes. Okay, our weather tracker vehicle is back heading back into downtown Suffolk on 13 right now. Here's live images from the weather vehicle right now. You see lots of rain, and that's another thing you got to think about. If you're out and about in this on the roadways, you've got the flooding downpours that are coming on through, because tropical downpours here, right? We've got 1 and 2 inch an hour rainfall rates. Here's a look at that. Bright radar signatures on here. If there is a circulation, it's likely rain wrapped. Won't be able to see it, visibility low. So definitely advise being off the roads in these areas. If you're in central, southern Suffolk, heading into Isle of Wight near Windsor, all of these areas right now are under tornado warnings. You see 3 separate warnings stretching from northeastern Gates County, heading towards southern Suffolk, and eventually into Isle of Wight there. All of these active over the next 30 minutes. The central one here that's over Suffolk right now was a radar confirmed tornado, I should say. And this circulation that we've been keeping an eye on over the last couple scans is a little more broad, a little more ragged, disorganized. Okay, that's what we want to see. We don't want to see this thing with brighter signatures, opposing colors. Brighter signatures, don't want to see that. This is moving off to the north towards Kenyon area. There's a new scan. Same sort of thing. Still a couplet, certainly, but weaker winds in this general area here. In fact, radar indicated winds here, not particularly strong. I mean, 30, 35 miles per hour, possibly in those areas. If we switch it up and put some of these on, maybe 40, 45, 50 miles per hour in this radar depiction there. So certainly some gusty winds near Manning, Loomis, Kenyon, and now north of Franklin Junction, but certainly winds picking up in those areas, and the potential there still, when we look at that couplet of a tornado. Well, there's a brand new signature we're seeing here. This just moved over 13 north of Nerniesville. Do you see how that stands out? The debris detector picking up something here that's not supposed to be in the atmosphere right now, likely some twigs, leaves, pieces of tree limbs maybe. Right over Nerniesville, right over 13 there. So that is a signature that there's a potential tornado that did touch down there, and radar did confirm that. So there's confirmation that a tornado was on the ground just to the northwest of Copeland Road. You can see here that there is, the signature now is to the north of there, so it has lifted out. That debris detector is lagging just a little bit, but the signature itself is now over Jackson Road, near Manning Road, those sorts of areas. We've got some shear, too, that's lifting out of that area, so indicating that winds of opposing directions, changing speed with height. That's an indicator of a potential tornado. But there's a new scan of the debris, and it's gone, so it was short-lived. So that area there we're watching very carefully. Down to the south, let's revisit this other tornado-warned cell. This couplet here just to the east of 32, now in southern Suffolk near the Great Dismal Swamp, Desert Road, Roundtree Crescent. Very bright signature there indicating that there is rotation, there is spin. Radar indicated tornado in this particular area that is lifting north towards Nernie, which just went through that other tornado. And here's a picture of all the tornado warnings right now. 3 separate ones, okay? Lifting out of Gates, Camden, into central southern Suffolk, and up in Isle of Wight as well. 3 separate tornado warning polygons there. 1 radar confirmed, 2 radar indicated. And what we've been looking for is debris signatures. See if we can confirm that from our radar tools here. And we saw that a little bit in central Suffolk, not so much anymore. But okay, now we've just got 2 active tornado warnings. They've discontinued the one that was up into Isle of Wight, so that's good. However, the one in central Suffolk does get into the Windsor area, just on the southern tier of the city of Windsor here for this couplet that we've been watching. That right now looks much less put together, which is some good news. Evan, any updates from you over there?
No, that you're watching the same thing I am. That warning was allowed to expire at 2:45. We have the one that runs until 3 o'clock. And the one thing that we're watching as we look downstream, the good news is that that southern part of the line starts to fall apart as it works its way down towards Parksville. So the chances that we'll see something else on the southern edge of this line looking less and less because we're not seeing that thunderstorm. I want to expand the whole view real quick and show you what's going on across the whole area, because I know we have viewers on the Eastern Shore, Peninsula, Middle Peninsula. You're not seeing much right now. There have been some warnings back through Dinwiddie County, just west of Petersburg. You saw that flashing there, Amelia County. So there have been some warnings up around the Richmond and Petersburg area as well, and some flood advisories as well. But looking downstream, there's not as much associated with this line anymore. You can see they just cut off the southern part of that tornado warning that was in Gates County. Now it's just for the city of Suffolk, so that's good news. Gates County, you're in the clear, and we weren't really seeing much rotation downstream. Maybe a little bit, but nothing like we were those strong signatures as that line extends down into areas just west of Elizabeth City, just pretty much close to the bypass. Watching a couple other thunderstorms down here through Dare County. As you get around the Alligator River, not seeing a lot of rotation with that part of the storm. So we'll see that band move through. There's another band that is sort of set up back here towards Roanoke Rapids and Ahoskie that we're watching as well. And it looks like our storm chaser is now in downtown Suffolk. Yeah. I was just driving through there a couple of days ago. So now into the downtown Suffolk area, which is under the warning right now, but we're not seeing that strong signature with that part of the storm as well. I'll actually zoom in on the radar there in the corner of your screen so you'll be able to see what it looks like on the ground there in downtown Suffolk and take you into downtown Suffolk on radar. And again, we are seeing that heavy rain right now that is showing up through the downtown area, becoming a little bit lighter, especially if you're just on the northern side of the city, which it looks like our storm chaser Nehemiah Bell might be moving through the northern part of the downtown area now. Tim?
Yeah, and you look at, we go over to Max 2, guys, and show you where the circulation that's warned is now set up over Kenyon, so just west of downtown Suffolk right now. This is the area right here, just south of Kenyon, and it is moving towards Myrtle and Old Suffolk Road. So downtown Suffolk right now, breezy, some rain, heavy rain there, but the circulation that's in question is just off to the southwest of you there. Bigger picture, as Evan was talking about, we're now down to 2 separate tornado warnings that are both active for 12 more minutes until 3 o'clock. And both circulations here, if we look at it on our filter, are looking like they're washing out a little bit. So they're moving into a more stable environment, which is good news, and that does look to lower the threat for tornadoes heading in this Isle of Wight. You can see here nothing really stands out anymore like it was just, say, 10, 15 minutes ago when we had these couplets that were very bright. They stood out against the background. We're still watching, however, that one that's just to the west of Suffolk. You can see it here on the last scan. That's the one that looks most prominent right now, and even that's not looking all that impressive. Indian Trail, Kenyon right now, it's over you. And is it throwing any debris up into the atmosphere? Maybe you see that little signature right over Kenyon right there. Could be some debris getting lofted, whether it be just for some gusty winds from the downburst or, say, a funnel cloud or tornado itself. That would be that signature right there, potentially lifting towards Kings Fork. As we've seen so far with this cell, when this comes up, it disappears quite quickly. So it could be hopscotching around if there is a tornado touching down. And we'll wait to see if we get any damage reports. Right now, I don't see any storm reports coming in from the National Weather Service that would populate here on our radar screen. Not seeing anything just yet. Sometimes it takes a little while for folks to get those reports in, take pictures, that kind of thing. So we have daylight still, so once it passes, maybe we'll see some reports coming on in. But overall, here's our setup. Bigger picture, if you're in our eastern areas, Chesapeake, getting into Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Portsmouth, all of this has avoided you so far. And as we put this in motion, it's not heading in your direction either. So there's no need to make preparations if you're well east of this right now, because this is mainly on a trajectory towards the north. We will be watching anything that develops farther to the east out into the Albemarle Sound for later this afternoon into this evening. Maybe it pivots on through those types of areas and will still have a tornado threat with it. Remember, we're under a tornado watch for most of the area right up through 8 o'clock this evening, and there's a growing likelihood that this does get carried farther into the overnight and maybe even into early tomorrow morning. Parts of the area have been under a tornado watch since 10:45 last night. So this is a long duration event, very slow movement of Debbie, and that's what's really kind of stirring up the atmosphere to cause these little spin-up tornadoes, which we talked about being the possibility here for the past couple of days. Let's get another check. We have a few more scans that came on in with our couplets in Suffolk right now. both of which look to be washing out. Nothing stands out here really. Probably keep an eye on this one here near Nerney. That's maybe trying to cycle itself up and put itself together near Saunders and Nerney, Skeetertown. You can see the brighter opposing colors there, red and green, indicating that twist in the atmosphere. Still not seeing much in terms of any debris signature. So both of these warnings right now that are up are, I believe one is actually radar confirmed still. That's the one that's to the west.
Yes.
Of Suffolk, and one that's to the south that's radar indicated. Potentially maybe a signature here near Deer Path Road of some debris. Let's see how that lines up with our, yeah, that could be possibly from that Deer Path Road, Indian Trail just to the west of Kenyon. Potentially some debris and from maybe a tornado that had touched down there. Lots of heavy rain in this as well. A threat that we haven't talked much since we started this coverage. We've been mainly focused, of course, on the tornado threat with 2 separate tornado warnings, and at a time there were 4. But these thunderstorms are moving over the same area. We call these training thunderstorms. Heavy rainfall, so this is increasing the flooding threat here. If you're out on the roadway, street flooding becoming more numerous, more expansive, and we've got more developing off to the south. So even though it looks like our tornado threat may be diminishing for at least now, there's still heavy rain down to the south here. Let's look downstream here, down into northeastern North Carolina again, where we saw all of our circulations kind of originate. Not so much out there right now. These things here these couplets may, as they drift to the north, try to pinch off, but right now it's not really associated with much in the way of thunderstorm activity. A break in the action south of Elizabeth City, and then more developing here in Dare County, far northern portions of Dare County. So we're going to watch that carefully there. We've got another 8 minutes on these tornado warnings, Evan. And circulation, thankfully, is looking a little bit less impressive over the last couple of scans.
Yeah, definitely looking like that one that you're zooming in on is becoming a little more broad. We're not seeing much else out there. I know that if you heard us earlier, we were talking about Silver Spring Road. Do know that there is a tree down that is blocking the road. We did get those reports out of there. And I think that's what we have here. Philip, you have the latest on that.
Yeah, it's a Facebook post, Evan, from Gates County Emergency Management. It shows a tree, like you said, has fallen on Silver Springs Road. You can see that picture right there. That's part of the Facebook post, again, showing that. Do we know exactly where this is, Silver Springs Road?
That was one of the areas that we were watching pretty closely earlier in Gates County with that severe thunderstorm warning this afternoon. That would bring it, Silver Springs Road would take it there just southwest of Sunbury. So Silver Springs Road pretty much runs from 32, takes you westward over towards Mill Pond Road, so pretty close to Merchant Mill Pond State Park. So that's where that would take you. So again, if you're familiar with Merchant Mill Pond State Park, Silver Springs Road travels just on the south side of it, from just south of Sunbury and 32. So Silver Springs Road sort of parallels 158. If we can take Max 1, you'll be able to see that. I have the map pretty much pulled up there. You'll be able to see Sunbury is up in here. Here's 32 working its way down, and here's Silver Springs Road, and there's Merchant Mill Pond. So if you're familiar with Merchant Mill Pond State Park, that's Merchant Mill Pond right there. So somewhere along Silver Springs Road, Philip.
And a situation like that can happen with saturated grounds, older tree. Doesn't necessarily mean this was wind related.
It doesn't necessarily mean it was a tornado because, as you mentioned, yes, we've had some very wet ground out there. We've had these copious amounts of rain, and this is why we advise you not to try to outrun a tornado warning or a line. We mentioned earlier, Philip, you were saying that it's best to stay safe because you never know when that tree could fall. You could be driving, have that gust of wind come through, the roots give way because the ground is so wet. And you can see there, of course, obviously the ground is wet from the heavy rain. This is a pretty big, looks like a pine tree. Might not be, can't really tell from the monitor that I have since it's a little bit smaller on the screen. But you can certainly see it pulled up from the root. There you can see on the left-hand side, it looks like that root ball got pulled up. So probably the very wet, saturated ground from all the rain that we've had the past several days. We ended July on a wet note. That certainly didn't help the situation there. And it looks like, the road kind of cuts through a little bit. It's a little more elevated there on either side. So that gust of wind could certainly come in and cause that tree to fall as well. So that's there in Gates County near Merchant Mill Pond State Park.
Yeah, and you can see NCDOT in that post there is going to be at the scene, I guess, working it right now. I would imagine that road is going to be closed for a little while, though. It's going to take a little while to get that tree out of the way. They're going to come in, you get the chainsaws, cut it up, and then we can pass through. But right now, you're definitely going to want to avoid that area if that's part of your afternoon commute.
That's right, and we have about 5 minutes to go, about 4 minutes to go on those 2 warnings. So I'll toss things back over to Chief Meteorologist Tim Panday just to give us the latest as we look like we're going to wind up here and round out our tornado coverage here in the next 4 minutes. But of course, we're going to be vigilant as we go here throughout the afternoon and evening with these thunderstorms, Tim.
Yeah, Evan, revisiting our spin detector, I've got 3 areas highlighted here, 2 of which are currently under the warnings that do expire in 4 minutes in Suffolk and in getting in Isle of Wight. You can see it crossing the county and city line there. However, there's one down to the south here, downstream Lynch's Corner area. I want to zoom in on that. No warning currently under that, but as we've seen so far this afternoon, that is where we see things start to get going. So this is trying to kind of pinch itself off near Lynch's Corner, Turnpike Road. Maybe something to watch, Tadmore Road, Top Road, Acorn Hill area. So that may be something that we're going to keep an eye on here over the next 20 minutes or so, a couple more scans, and that's lifting in the same general direction. Cells that are currently warned is this one here just now to the southeast of Windsor. This is over Myrtle, Shiloh Drive, and Buckhorn Drive, Windsor area. Let's see if we're seeing any debris signature there. Not so much. I don't think what's there over Windsor is a debris signature that just looks like an anomaly. You can see they're getting closer to the radar site. But aside from that, that's about it right now. These 2 warnings, 3 minutes left to go on their activation. And then we've got not much else to the south here except for this cell here to the east of Hoffler's Fork. So that's going to be something we keep an eye on here over the next little while, Evan. I mean, we've got this line here that thankfully is starting to break up farther south to the west of Elizabeth City, but the atmosphere's, promoting spin.
Yeah, tropical systems have a lot of energy with them, even if they're a weak tropical storm. As they come ashore, they've been out over the water as Debbie was before it came ashore. It doesn't have that friction. Once those winds start to move on shore, it encounters the friction of the land. You have wind speeds and a change in direction from at the surface to as you get higher up, some of the steering currents of the tropical system. So you get that bending of the wind as you get higher up in height. That's that wind shear that we talk about. And that's what will spin up those tornadoes. Again, a lot of times they are very quick inside these bands of tropical systems. They'll come down, they'll sort of pulse up and down. That's, I think, what we've been seeing with these storms, with some of that debris signature. It'll be there, and then it won't be, and then it'll be there, and then it won't, because a lot of times they'll just sort of pulse up. They're not like these big supercells that you see in Twisters, which is out now. They're not these big supercell thunderstorms that move through parts of the Midwest. These form along lines of these rain bands. As we mentioned earlier that a lot of times they're rain wrapped. You have the heavy rain that is falling around them, so you can't see them. So that's really what we've been seeing with these spin-up tornadoes as we've gone here through the afternoon, and again, about another minute left on these 2 warnings.
And I'm glad you brought up the fact that these are not supercells, right? So these, and you look at the radar, and there's not even a whole brand new tornado warning actually just popped up here.
Yep, a brand new tornado warning there on that northern
heading
side
up
of it.
in Isle of Wight. So yeah, let's look at that signature here. This is over the Windsor area, so this thing is tightened up a little bit more. So we're getting closer to the Wakefield side that you can see way out over here, right? So we're getting a better sampling of if there's spin reaching closer to the ground. So as you get closer to the radar site, the beam at Wakefield shoots out at an elevation, right, at an angle. So the farther out you go, the higher up in the atmosphere it's sampling. So now that we're getting closer to Wakefield, getting a sampling that's a little bit more realistic of what may be occurring closer to the ground there. So we're looking at the Windsor area.
Yeah, definitely around Windsor there as that updated sweep comes in.
Yeah, let's see if we've got any sort of debris signature. Maybe. I'm not sold on this being that, since we are getting some disruptions as you get closer to the radar site. You see how all these different things show up there. And of course, we're not as far up from the surface there in the Windsor area from this radar site. So definitely watching for this. In terms of any wind speeds in the Windsor area, getting maybe 35 radar indicated, close to 40 miles per hour. 30 miles per hour. So winds are certainly picking up here. If the cell is definitely spinning over the Windsor area, if there is in fact a tornado with this is radar indicated at this point, and it is moving off towards the north at between 35 and
35, yep.
40 miles per hour. So let's put a track on it here for you with this couple. We can kind of pinpoint it here, right over Windsor right now, moving to the north at 35, taking it towards Windsor. You can see there, Windsor at 3 o'clock on the nose right now, right over you. 309 Whaley area, or Whitley, excuse me. 312 Central Hill and Stotts Crossroads at around 314. So this is a brand new tornado warning with this one. The numbers on this is it's up for 30 minutes until 3:30 for Suffolk, Isle of Wight, and Southampton.
Yeah, and this is right along, right there where 258 and 460 come together. 460, a pretty important thoroughfare there through Isle of Wight County and northern areas of Southampton County as you work your way through Zuni and up towards Ivor, towards the National Weather Service site there in Wakefield. So I know that's, 4-lane, heavily traveled road, so there are likely a lot of folks that are out there on the road right now. So 460 is certainly the area that we're really concerned about from Windsor up towards Zuni, eventually towards Ivor. Tracking that out, that would bring it towards Zuni around 305 and Ivor around 310. Central Hill, Whitley, Boaz, Ponds, Rayner, Indica, those are the areas that we're watching. Take cover now. If you're under that warning, go to that interior room. We mentioned away from windows, a bathroom, a closet underneath a staircase, because you want to put as many walls between you and the outside of your house. And there with the latest sweep, as we head a little bit farther back towards Windsor, still some very broad rotation. I wouldn't say it's as tight as some of the others that we've seen so far this afternoon, but certainly a broad rotation there just along Shiloh Drive, a 460 as it intersects there with 258 right in the town of Windsor. Some of the other areas along Thomas Woods Trail, West Blackwater Road, Fire Tower Road. Let's put on a few more of these. Cut Through Road right through there, and Barrett Town Road takes us up towards Yellowhammer. Right there along, as we mentioned, West Blackwater Road. They're leaving the town of Windsor right along 460.
Yeah, and that seems to be one of the only rotations that is quite prominent out there right now, Evan, and it is the lone tornado warning as of this time. The other two that were in Suffolk were allowed to expire at the top of the hour. But I want to revisit back down to the south here and take a look at what's going on here in far northeastern Gates County. We're kind of playing it all out over again, right? We're starting to see the beginning stages of what looks to be another couplet lifting out into the far southern portions of the Great Dismal Swamp and eventually into the city of Suffolk, too. No warning currently on this, but this is exactly how we saw the last couple of cells begin and eject out of northeast North Carolina and head into Virginia. So this is going to be the next one to watch downstream, headed north. Currently, the only active tornado warning is the one Evan was just talking about, is the one here up until 3:30. That's for a good chunk of Isle of Wight. It does still include portions of Suffolk, but as you look at the spin signature here, it is clearly out of Suffolk. It's mainly just a concern for Isle of Wight and the city of Windsor there. Headed out of your area now, but this area opposing winds is the couplet we're watching here, potentially for a tornado. This is just clearly radar indicated at this time. Haven't seen any sort of signature that indicates to me that there is debris getting lofted. That's a good thing. That's a positive development there. But it is still moving into an environment that looks to still be marginally favorable for tornadoes to develop. We've seen, I think this is like our 6th tornado warning so far this afternoon, and this is currently the only one active, but we're still watching the southern portion. I'm interested to see what happens with this, kind of getting itself together here near Parker's Fork. This would be the 3rd go-around in this area of a potential tornado moving on through. This is in far northeastern Gates County at this time that would lift into Suffolk as well.
I'm watching another area a little bit farther south down there into the Pamlico Sound.
Okay.
That storm that is right there.
Yeah.
You can see it there. There's a little bit of a signature that is starting to show up. Yeah, Tim is zooming in on it there that we're seeing down there. This is over the waters of the Albemarle Sound. This could spin up a water spout, which could then come ashore somewhere, say, close to Weeksville or Goose Creek. So that's the next one that we'll have to watch pretty closely as that works its way out of the Albemarle Sound. So that's sort of along that same line that we've seen with these thunderstorms, this squall line, this outer rain band. It breaks up a little bit over Elizabeth City, but then we see that next part of it. That's the one we were watching earlier. We mentioned it was over northern Dare County near the mouth of the Alligator River, now moving through the Albemarle Sound. So that's the next one that we're going to have to look at up towards, I believe that's the Pasquotank River that works its way up there through Pasquotank County and up into Elizabeth City. So Sound, Neck Road, Weeksville, Goose Creek, there may be something in there that is trying to start to show up a little bit. And let's see, we're not seeing too much on our storm tracker as far as anything that it might be trying to key on. But that's the next one that we'll have to watch as well, Tim.
Yeah, and you can see if you go back to the one that's northwest of Elizabeth City, that one looks also starting to be pinching something off. But if you're just joining us right now, wondering what's going on, we've been tracking active tornado warnings for the last hour or so. And now we're down to one single tornado warning that's up in the Isle of Wight. But I want to show you the overall larger picture because there is more to come down to the south. Evan just highlighted that couplet that's potentially just over the Albemarle Sound, lifting towards the north. So this cluster of storms here heading off to the north and eventually could be impacting portions of Chesapeake and Virginia Beach. Right now, Isle of Wight under a tornado warning until 3:30. This line here has been very active and has been the source of all of our tornado warnings so far this afternoon. Farther down to the south and west is where you get closer and closer to the center of circulation for what is Debbie. That's now been over land for a while now, and it is decaying, but it has a spin overall in the atmosphere that we will be dealing with. Most of the area, the exception being the eastern shore, is under a tornado watch until 8 o'clock tonight, and we do speculate that it will probably be prolonged into a good chunk of the overnight and even into tomorrow morning as well. Let's get a look here of what's going on with this cell that's in Isle of Wight. And right now, it lifted out of the Windsor area. So what you're looking at here is wind direction. And why that's important, obviously, is because a tornado is winds that are moving in opposing directions, right? It's spinning. And the radar kind of breaks this down by showing wind particles moving in different directions. So the green is going to be wind that's heading towards the radar site in Wakefield. The red is heading away. So when you get a couplet that has green and reds tightly bunched like we're seeing here, it doesn't look overall impressive. If these were two bright opposing colors, bright red and bright green, that'd be another story, which it looks a little brighter here near Fire Tower Road. But this is lifting pretty much along 460 there. And this lifted out of Windsor. And this has had a history of producing tornado warnings. There was one that was a radar-confirmed tornado, which I believe was from this cell, moving off to the northwest. And now it's in Isle of Wight. It may be a problem down the line for Surrey County as well. And the next hour or so as it moves to the northwest at 35 miles per hour. But looking down to the south, some things do stick out. More couplets developing here, just to the east of Belvedere. And this one here that's still over the Albemarle that could potentially get its act together and drift inland and cause more tornado warnings. As this looks on radar, they don't look overly ominous, right? And a lot of times with these systems, these are storms that are low-topped, meaning when we get severe weather, storms build higher into the atmosphere. With this type of setup, they're low-topped. We have hardly any lightning with this, meaning the convection isn't really there. We just have marginally strong thunderstorms that are getting a boost from the spin that's already there in the atmosphere from Debbie. That's all it is. These are basically overperforming thunderstorms. It looks like a brand new tornado warning.
Brand new tornado warning came in.
Popped up here. Yep. That's looking.
That's the one that we were watching. And you were mentioning these storm heights. I mean, we're looking at storms that are only about 20,000 feet.
Yeah.
So they're not very long. But yes, you are tracking that rotation. You were mentioning it there in Gates County, Tim. So that's the new warning that we had that just came out. And again, it includes some of the same areas over the Dismal Swamp that we've been watching before.
Yeah, I think this is the third tornado warning for this area in the last hour. So this is the couplet here. And we talked about this being something that would be a sus going forward. Lifting off to the north, Nerney area, heading in that same general area along 32 and just to the east of areas there. Our debris detector here, not showing much, which is a good thing, but the cell itself, you can see that little notch here that's just to the east of Parker's Fork. This is probably, if I line that up, that would be where we're looking at the circulation, right? So this general area, county line ditch, there's the Great Dismal Swamp here. Off to the north, let's see if I can move this over here. Just off to the north is what we're looking at, the Great Dismal Swamp. They're lifting in that general direction. And on the text for the warning, this one moving at 35 too?
Yes, that one is moving northwest at 40.
40, okay. So we'll put a track on this. Again, same areas that were under the gun earlier. Here's some cities and towns. Downtown Suffolk again in the line of fire. 20-minute lead time for you. 3:29 is when this circulation, if it holds together, which it likely will. We've seen these kind of holding together for a prolonged period of time, headed in your direction by 3:29. Kenyon, again, we just watched a couplet move through your area within the last 20 minutes. You're under the gun again at 3:31. And Saunders is up first here, is 9-minute lead time for you at 3:20. So this is the couplet here. That last scan looks a little bit better. And starting to see potentially what could be indicated or interpreted as some debris.
Tim, speaking of, quick update.
Yeah.
Josh, do we have that picture we showed you earlier from Facebook? We just got off the phone with Gates County Emergency Management, William Tutwiler. You see it here. This is on Silver Springs Road. He just told us that NCDOT was able to get out there and they have removed the tree from the road. So Silver Springs Road is back open there.
Good, good. Yeah, we saw a cell move through there earlier that was warned for a tornado, so that could possibly be caused by a tornado or not. There were gusty winds associated with that cell as well. And we'll probably see more images of some damage coming on in, as there was one radar-confirmed tornado that was moving through Suffolk and out of Gates County earlier this afternoon. We now have 2 active tornado warnings across our area. We were tracking just one that was up in the Isle of Wight, moving into far southern portions of Surrey, potentially, if it held together. Farther downstream here, we're back in the same spots, Great Dismal Swamp into central and southern Suffolk under another tornado warning here. This one is up until 3:45 for Suffolk, Camden, and Gates County. I think this is mainly going to be impactful for Suffolk because the circulation is now lifted out of North Carolina and is over portions of southern Suffolk at this time. The circulation that we're looking at is going to be this right here. This area here right north of the state line. You can see the opposing colors. Desert Road right there. That's potentially maybe even a secondary circulation right to the southeast of it, north of County Line Ditch, Great Dismal Swamp right there. So over pretty low populated area. But nonetheless, it still is a potential tornado that could be making it towards the ground. And of course, it is moving to the northwest at 40 miles per hour. So let's put another track on it based on these new sweeps from the radar site here, putting it at 40 miles per hour on this cell here towards downtown Suffolk. Not much change. We're at 3:30 now for downtown Suffolk, a minute later than what the last scan showed. So got 17-minute lead time again, and this is the second warning that's impacting your area. Nerney at 3:23, Nerneysville 3:25, Russell 3:26, and Loomis at 3:32. Secondary circulation right behind that, moving at the same speed. We'll put another track on it. This may be moving into central Suffolk itself at 3:34, and Nansemond at 3:36. Let's get a check and see if we've got any sort of debris signature here. There was some weak indicator here right along 32 near Daniels Road, maybe some debris getting lofted, but we're getting some signatures here that I think are interacting with the radar site and the terrain there that aren't really reliable. So we'll keep an eye on that. Bigger picture here in terms of radar, we've got one single line you see over the last 3 hours, just kind of lifting from the southeast and building to the north and west. And this is also causing likelihood of some flooding, very heavy rain here. Thankfully, these cells moving 35, 40 miles per hour, so they're not sitting, but still likely causing some issues. If you are out and about, lower visibilities, and lower visibilities with a tornado warning, that's a whole nother plethora of problems. You likely would not be able to see it if there was, in fact, a tornado in those areas. So central Suffolk, leading in Isle of Wight, and maybe even getting into Surrey County here within the next hour or so if these circulations hold together. Farther down towards the south, any couplets that are also looking interesting? Yes, there is one here just to the west of Elizabeth City. This one here, so we're seeing red in a sea of green, right? That shouldn't be there. Winds are all moving towards the radar site here in the green, and we've got a couplet of winds that are moving away. So we're starting to see a couplet maybe starting to get its act together and tighten up just a little bit. There's a new scan for it there showing that that could very well be the case. In fact, two different couplets here, one north of Parkville and one just to the west of Elizabeth City, may be something to watch as we go through the next 20 minutes or so. These are these two cells. Notice they don't look ominous. They just look like thunder, not even any thunder with these, just some heavy downpours, but they're spinning, okay? And when you get that heavy rain to pull down that spin to the surface in the downdraft, could potentially see a tornado, and that's what we've been seeing playing on out all this time. Another area to watch here will be this cluster near Riddle and Goose Creek. That could potentially put down some sort of circulation. There's some beginning stages of that here near Goose Creek. You see the brighter greens, Bay Breeze Drive. That could be another one, but certainly going to keep an eye on that one near Elizabeth City. The ones that are currently actively warned, the one out by Windsor north of there is very washed out at this time. This is it. In fact, let me try to find, I think this is it right here. This is the circulation well south of Central Hill, and that's the one that's currently warned. Not much with it anymore. Down to the south here is this last one that is still warned, and this is the couplet. That looks pretty decent. A pair of couplets here. Desert Road, White Marsh Road, southeast of Russell. Brighter greens there indicating some gustier winds, in fact, some speeds. 30 miles per hour. Let's get a different perspective on that. Some of these winds here could be, okay, that's interesting. Nearly 65, 70 miles per hour potentially in those areas. Something to keep an eye on. Wind damage could certainly be a problem in those areas, and if it's, tightening on up, could potentially be caused by a tornado. Bigger picture, what we're tracking, 2 separate tornado warnings lifting off to the northwest there. Evan, any update from the Weather Service?
Nothing much different than what you've been talking about. I'm going to expand this radar out and just kind of give the broad perspective of what's going on here with Debbie, because that center of circulation has now moved out of South Carolina and is moving into North Carolina, and we have those bands that continue around that center of circulation that sort of fire up. And even though it's a landfalling system, it's moved ashore and it is weakening and it is diminishing and it is decaying. It still has a lot of energy in the atmosphere, and it's running into the very moist air that is here overhead, and with the warmer temperatures, it's firing up those thunderstorms. So I'll stop that loop. And again, the one thing that you'll notice is that it's just these bands that sort of just line themselves up, and they move in a lot of the same places. And that's why we're seeing this training of these storms. So these warnings are again in a lot of the same places that continue to see as this band moves through. That's just an update on the tornado warning there that is through parts of Suffolk. I'll clear that off. So that's just an update and lets me know there's an update on that storm that is there in Suffolk around Sanders and Sanders, and right along, again, the western edge of the Great Dismal Swamp. Close to the Wildlife Refuge, the entrance there along White Marsh Road, Russell, downtown Suffolk, you are under that warning. So taking 13 down out of downtown Suffolk, down towards Whaleyville and Nerney, Russell, seeing that heavy rain, seeing that possible rotation that Tim was watching. You can see again those reds and the greens that are right there next to each other just towards the east of Nerney. We'll zoom in. Again, Saunders, Skeetertown, Russell, right along White Marsh Road and Hoosier Road, just south of the downtown Suffolk area. Not far from the airport there, to be honest. And that's one of the rotations that we're watching. A couple more possible broad rotations right there. Just towards the west of the bypass. That's pretty close to where all the big windmills are. There is a live traffic camera there from the city of Suffolk, and you can see the heavy rain that is there as well. So they're dealing with the heavy rain in Suffolk. That's just near the downtown area. As we look a little bit farther south down towards Elizabeth City, some of those rotations are becoming a little more broad. So that's certainly some good news with this line as well. But we have those 2 active warnings, one until 3:30 and one until 3:45 for Isle of Wight and extreme northern Southampton County and the city of Suffolk. Tim?
Yeah, and Evan, we see where these storms are now, but where are they going? Here's an updated storm track on the cell that we're watching in southern Suffolk, so just south of downtown. A movement of 35 miles per hour, and this should clip the far western areas of downtown. Again, just 30 minutes ago, we were watching a separate couplet doing the same sort of track. So these are moving along the same area. Suffolk back to 329. You got about a 10-minute lead time for you there, 9 minutes now for this couplet here that's over Saunders to lift in your general direction. Expect an increase in gusty winds, certainly, and maybe even the potential of a tornado. In terms of any sorts of ground truth from a debris signature standpoint, I'm not seeing much of that, which is a positive development. What we're looking at here is our debris detector. It's a filter on the radar. All this purple shading here is the radar telling us that everything is uniform. It's just picking up on plain old rain. When there's something that's anomalous or that shouldn't be there, it'll almost put up a red flag and highlight it with different colors. So down here would potentially be something, but you see it's on the outermost fringe of some disruption from the radar site there near Nerney. So that could maybe be some debris. The darker shades of red, or lighter shades of red, I should say, indicate it's small debris, if anything at all. But that is generally lifting towards the Suffolk area. So it may just be gusty winds. Radar is indicating 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts. That could certainly loft some leaves and some twigs and tree branches up into the mid-levels of the atmosphere to get picked up by radar. But in terms of anything like a debris ball signature that a tornado would have, I don't see that. So that's some good news there. Let's get another check. We should have a new scan updated here from our wind speed or our couplet. And there it is. This one right here that was over Saunders. It is now knocking on the door of downtown Suffolk, and it will approach and move over likely western areas of downtown as it lifts towards Kings Fork and the Kenyon area, again, like we just saw with this last cell. Here's how it kind of progressed over the last 20 minutes or so. You see it lifting on out of the Great Dismal Swamp, and now here kind of a little more broad. It's not so much tightened up in any general area. There's Nerney. It's just to the east of you there, and lifting in that direction. So very gusty winds. In fact, look at some of the wind speeds potentially here. 60, 50 miles per hour. So decent winds that could certainly cause damage. They're past the threshold of a severe thunderstorm, over 55 miles per hour. So we could be seeing some gusty winds, damage from those gusty winds, and within that, the threat of a tornado in that area, which is why there is a tornado warning that is up for that area. Here's how it looks on radar. We're starting to almost see a little bit more of that signature when you see these these little comma shapes here, these little, they pinch off from the bottoms of the cells. That's showing that they're already rotating as they're lifting to the north. So we've got 4 different ones kind of lined up here and moving along that warning polygon towards the Windsor area, crossing the city and county line into Isle of Wight in the short term here, moving right up and over the same area. So this one here is interesting to watch, and we did have that very weak debris signature on it. In terms of anything developing to the south, this cell here, north of Elizabeth City, now has some lightning with it. So it is strengthening. And does it have a signature in terms of any spin? It certainly does. Very broad, weak at this point. But as we've seen play out time and again this afternoon, these do start to tighten on up as they lift a little bit farther to the north. That spin energy, the wind energy is already there in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, making it a little bit easier for this to get its act together with the overall environment that it's in. So two separate couplets there that are drifting towards the north, maybe getting into southern Chesapeake in the next 30 minutes or so. But in terms of the Warren cell, here it is. This one here is probably going to be scaled back a little bit because a lot of the areas it has moved out of at this time. But this warning is up for another 22 minutes until 3:45 for the city of Suffolk. And it's this here. This is where the couplet is lifting towards downtown Suffolk. South and west of Nerney over towards Loomis, not so much. You're just on the fringe of that polygon, that warning, the tornado warning. It's more so central and off towards the northeast portion of this polygon here towards downtown Suffolk. Let's see if we've got an updated scan. We do. We still have this this couplet that looks, it's pretty much due east of Nerney, and seeing wind gusts associated with it that, 72 miles per hour is indicated by radar. This is again sampling it pretty high up, so this may not be reaching the ground. But when you pair gusts like that sampled at that height, you have a heavy downpour, you can bring that down to the surface. So we could maybe see this correlate at the ground to 55 to 60 miles per hour, certainly strong enough to do some damage in those areas. On the other side, we've got a wind gust of 40, 55 indicated by radar, 65. So the wind energy is certainly there, and we can see it kind of pinching on off or tightening on up in this area here. That's just to the southeast of White Marsh Road, south of Jericho Ditch Lane. So here's the area downtown Suffolk. Here's our couplet heading in that general direction. If you're in Suffolk right now, you're under that tornado warning, go to your safe place, interior room, put as many walls between you and the outside as you can, no windows, lowest level. Take your phones with you, obviously. Turn up the TV if you're watching us live on air, and we'll let you know when this does pass. But it is heading in your direction, and the trend of radar has shown this tightening up and getting maybe a little bit more organized and stronger as it heads towards downtown Suffolk. Let's again check on the debris signature. Anything that's indicating that there could be some debris, maybe slightly here near White Marsh Road, lifting again towards that area. We're getting some disruption here indicated by those blues popping on up, but this could very well be some small debris indicating maybe just the gusty winds like we saw radar indicating up to 65 or 70, but generally that is lifting into downtown Suffolk here. Here's how it looks on radar. I'm guessing we will get an update very quickly, very soon, from the Weather Service on where that is heading and what the developments are. But down to the south, there is more action here. These couplets are going to be a suspect here in the next 15, 20 minutes. Over towards Morgan's Corner, Top Road, Acorn Hill, Lynch's Corner. Two separate couplets here that look to maybe start to tighten themselves up as they lift towards the north. We could see more tornado warnings as a result of that. Evan?
Yeah, that's what I was just watching, Tim, some of those couplets that were popping up there just towards the north of Elizabeth City. These storms, again, they've been spinning up across North Carolina. They'll tighten up and then move into Virginia. We have those two warnings that you mentioned. One is set to expire here in about another 3 minutes. And I just want to, again, give you that wider view where you can see that center of circulation moving out of South Carolina into North Carolina. This is Debbie. We have the tornado watch that is in effect until 8 p.m. for eastern Virginia and eastern North Carolina. Likelihood that even past 8 o'clock tonight that will be extended. We saw it ran through 1 o'clock this afternoon, and then it was extended until 8 o'clock. It'll likely be extended once again. And Debbie is still officially a tropical storm, about 100 miles southwest of Raleigh, or 55 miles east-southeast of Charlotte. Once we get through tonight, there'll still be some outer rain bands affecting us even into the day tomorrow. So we're not out of the woods once we get through tonight, and it looks like a brand new tornado warning. That's an update that just came in where they chopped off that southern half of the warning. You had mentioned that certainly, Tim, that it looked like that areas, as you got farther south into the southern areas of the city, we're no longer under that threat, so the warning still goes until 3:45, but the southern edge of that warning has been trimmed off.
Yeah, I want to get over to Phil now. Phil, we got some updates on power outages, correct?
Yeah, just a quick update. Can we bring up the power outage map right there? You can see it, I believe. We're going to zoom in on a little section of North Carolina. We know 750, is that the latest number? 750 homes are without power right now in northern North Carolina. Yeah, just under 750. You're looking at the power outage map right now. Can we zoom in a little more? North of Sunbury here. Assuming it's in that yellow quadrant here, yeah. So we're going to keep tracking power outages right now, but obviously a result of the storms that we're seeing, that system, the bands of Debbie. Tim, what is the latest here? Let's get back to it.
Yeah, I really want to focus on what's going on in downtown Suffolk right now. We're going to kind of focus on you for the next 10, 15 minutes until this circulation passes. If we can pull up Max 2, check out the signature here on this spin up here that is warned for a potential tornado that is here right over White Marsh Road. Here is downtown Suffolk, brand new update of the scan. Trends on this, the polygon that was issued for the warning showed it going towards the western portions of Suffolk, downtown. I'll tell you, the trends look like this signature will be going right through the center and maybe even towards the eastern side near Nansemond as this moves to the north at 35 miles per hour. So if you're in downtown, you're in this general area, I want you in your safe space. This has a history of producing, at the very least, very gusty, damaging winds. In fact, radar indicates that some of these wind gusts could be up in over 60 65 miles per hour in these areas. That's certainly enough to take down trees. We've been saturated, so root systems are compromised in a lot of areas. Takes those trees down a little bit easier. So this area, central downtown Suffolk and off to the north and west, headed up towards Nansemond, be on the lookout. You are under a tornado warning right now. In terms of a debris signature, this could possibly be one right here. Let me zoom in on this a little bit. You see this right here, how it kind of stands out from the background uniform color of purple? These little orange spots could potentially be some debris. It does line up pretty well with where the signature is of the spin. So it's in that area. There's Russell. It is just to the east there. There's Jericho, Ditch Lane, Magnolia, due south of there, and there's downtown Suffolk. So it is getting mighty windy here, and these winds may shift and switch direction, involved with a tornado potentially lifting towards you. So I want you to get in your safe space right now. It's moving at 35 miles per hour. Let's put a track on it. So those down the line could prepare and go to their safe space too. Right over this couplet, we'll move it to the north. So let me move it so you can see it. Magnolia at 336, okay? Nansemond at 339. Wilroy at 341. We're looking at Beeman at 342, Baileytown 344, and Driver, North Suffolk, getting up there at 346. If there's a brand new scan, let's see what that looks like. So yeah, there's definitely a signature here of at least very gusty winds and the potential of maybe even a tornado moving towards Magnolia at this time. Downtown, just to the east of you there, towards Nansemond. You got about a 10-minute lead time in Nansemond, less than that in Magnolia. This is the couplet that we're concerned with right over Jericho Ditch Lane. That would be the area. If there were a tornado, that's where it would be located. Here's a look at debris. Let's see if we have any signature there. I do see something that's likely some debris. This right here, right over White Marsh Road, this has gotten brighter over the last scan, and it lines up with where our signature is. It does lag behind a little bit in terms of the info coming in, but that looks to be potentially some debris there. So I want you to be prepared for that. If you're in downtown Suffolk, get to your safe space right now. If you have any debris or damage or anything, wait until the storm passes to get us pictures, because we'd like to see some ground truth here. But this is the area that we're watching here, right over Hosier Road, moving towards Nansemond. Whitehall Arch is there, Nansemond area, Magnolia just south. This is the couplet we're watching there so far. How it looks on radar, it is not very ominous, right? It's just a thunderstorm that most of the heavy rain is dislocated to the northwest of it, and the circulation is pretty much right in here, lifting towards Nansemond, Baileytown if it holds together, and eventually could be a threat for North Suffolk, Bridgeport area, Bennett's Creek area. Keep an eye on this as we go further out. The actual warning here does indicate that the couplet would be moving farther to the east. Trends are showing that it's more so on the eastern side here, not the western side. So that's very interesting there. Here's another look at that couplet, pretty much right over Magnolia now, building towards the area there. Gusty winds, certainly 66 miles per hour, 65 miles per hour, 60 near Suburban Drive, 63 miles per hour. So it's definitely windy here. I do want to preface these numbers with the fact that they're getting sampled a little bit higher up in the atmosphere, but they could translate down to the surface and at least be 45, 55 miles per hour potentially in that area. And of course it is twisting, so that threat is there for a potential of a tornado. But there's a look at that brand new scan coming in. Thankfully we get them every minute and a half, so we can see the updates here. And this is the couplet we're watching. Briefly, I want to move away from Suffolk because it is impacting you there right now, obviously, but we have another pair of couplets that are currently not warned. These ones are moving into Campton and Gates, moving to the north, eventually in southern Chesapeake and southern Suffolk over the Great Dismal Swamp. You can see those spins there. Not so much in the way of any warnings. Right now there's no warnings on it, but this may be the next two that are up on the list. And we talked about training thunderstorms and the threat of flooding. You can see here a flood advisory now issued in that kind of the aqua color. That's right over the tornado warning as well. So not only is the hazard there for a potential tornado and gusty winds, but flooding downpours in this general area as well. Central Suffolk getting up in Isle of Wight in the Windsor area there as well. Evan?
Yeah, so we do know that we have seen that very heavy rain, and there are other tornado warnings that are out there just towards our south and west. Again, all along this whole spiraling band of rain that is rotating around the center of the dying tropical system that is Tropical Storm Debbie. Again, we'll widen it out, pop on the regional radar. And again, the heavy rain extends back into central Virginia and western Virginia. That's where the flood threat is likely going to be. And you throw in the topography of the mountains and the foothills there on the east side of the Appalachians, and you run into that threat of that heavy flooding as well. Just north of Raleigh, there is a tornado warning there as well. And that one is a radar observed tornado warning with this system. Again, and the entire area with the exception of the eastern shore under that tornado watch that runs until 8 o'clock tonight. And again, it'll likely be extended. It's always the east side of the system or the right side of that forward movement. If we put the, the movement here of Debbie, which is towards the north, it's always on the right-hand side, and especially that right front quadrant that you see the strongest winds, you see the threat of that rotation. And part of that is the way the bands are coming onshore, wrapping around that center of circulation. They encounter the friction with the land. The air closer to the surface slows down. It's faster the higher up you go, and you get that spin-up tornado. And again, this warning is expected to go for another 10 minutes. That includes downtown Suffolk. And as you were mentioning, Tim, there have been some signs that that trend is sort of on the east side of that warning. I would even say that it's pretty safe now to give downtown Suffolk at least the all clear from this part of the storm. It is getting close to some of the areas that have been hard hit by tornadoes in the past, up around Kings Fork and Elephant Fork, or right there around Obacy Hospital. Of course, we had a tornado, gosh, was that about 10, 15 years ago now, that went through that area and did quite a bit of damage. If you drive along the bypass right there around 460, as you get off, you'll notice all the trees are, gone. And they've been building back up again up there around Pitch Kettle Road, Kings Fork Road. Kings Fork Elementary is right in there, and Elephant's Fork. So again, that northern area of Suffolk, that's where the warning and where some of the strongest part of the storm is now located, up around Girl Scout Road. And so let's put on, see if there's still some of that broad rotation.
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah, right there around just northern Suffolk, inside of the bypass right there. Elephant Fork towards Magnolia, just past the airport and the SIPSA landfill there as you break away either to go to downtown Suffolk or go along the bypass around Highway 10 and up towards Red Top, High Point Road, or Hill Point Road, excuse me, over towards Kings Fork and Kings Fork Road. So we still have that warning. Let's see, is that an update? Yeah, that's an update that just came in on that tornado warning. And the latest on that is a 337, will remain in effect until 345. Thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located over Kings Fork, as we mentioned, moving northwest at 35 miles per hour. And there's, again, some radar indicated rotation. It's for that part of the northern part of that warning. I would say you're pretty much out of the woods for downtown Suffolk, but I'd keep, if you're up into areas here closer to Windsor, moving into Isle of Wight County once again, I would certainly be on the alert if you're around Everett's, Longview, Central Hill, that if that rotation persists, that this warning could be expanded back into Isle of Wight County and some of these areas that have already seen warnings as we've gone here through the afternoon.
Yeah, and Evan, we go back over to Max 2 and show you here the updated scan on the couplet. Yeah, I would agree with you, giving downtown Suffolk the all clear here, because it looks like the center or the focal point here is now just to the northeast of Elephant Fork, near Red Top, just to the west of Nansemond right now between Woolroy and Red Top. You see this brighter signature here lifting out towards the north at a pretty good clip, 35 miles per hour or so. Check out what the radar indicates in terms of wind speeds currently, 62 miles per hour, potentially nearly 50 miles per hour, closing in on 70 miles per hour here just to the northeast of Elephant Fork. So very gusty winds associated with this, sampled at a pretty decent elevation, so some of that could be mixing down to the ground, especially if it's paired with a heavy downpour that can pull those gusty winds down. But we're looking at this couplet here that at least the latest scan shows it broadening a little bit. It was looking quite ominous as it was moving through the eastern side of downtown Suffolk, and is now lifted over 13 just to the west of Nansemond right now. Debris signature, we have one. right here near Hill Point Boulevard, just south of you there, south of Red Top. You can see the difference in the color. Everything else is uniform purple, indicating rain. Anything that's anomalous or shouldn't be there is indicated by an off color. And we have that here. Probably some lighter debris. Could be from a downburst pushing, debris that's, leaves, twigs, things like that, higher up in the atmosphere. Or, since it's under a tornado warning that's radar indicated, it could be the result of a tornado on the ground there. We have not gotten any confirmation from radar or from any reports, but this is just what we're seeing on radar currently, and it does line up pretty much. There's a brand new scan. I mean, it is Red Top area right now, Hill Point Boulevard. That is looking very ominous for you right now. A wind gust estimate in those areas, 72 miles per hour, just south of Red Top, and we're getting up in the Red Top, closing in on nearly 60 miles per hour. So this is the area right now to seek shelter immediately. Kensington Boulevard along Route 10 up towards Red Top. This is the area where there could potentially be a tornado. Shows up a little bit better on this particular filter. Just now north of Kensington Boulevard there, very gusty winds and the potential of a tornado. You can see that we did have the damage, the debris indicator that now, as the recent update has lifted or maybe lifted towards Nob Hill Lane. That could be some signs there of maybe some debris, but it's very, very weak. I mean, these little signatures here could possibly be some light debris that gets lofted into the atmosphere. But there it is. It's just very bright. Opposing wind speeds. There it is lifting right along Route 10 there over Red Top area. This is a tornado-warned severe thunderstorm in this area. Here's how it looks on radar. We got the warning here. It is pretty much towing the line along the far northeastern boundary of that polygon. Nothing out towards Kings Fork, maybe some gusty winds, but the tornadic threat is right along Route 10 up towards Red Top at this current time, paired with some very heavy rainfall. This would likely be a rain-wrapped, low visibility type setup for a potential tornado. So I'm concerned a little bit about what's going on in Red Top right now. And as this lifts along Route 10, anybody out on the roads right now needs to seek some shelter and get to their safe place. If you're watching, you live near 5 Mile Road, Hill Point Boulevard. Let's put a track on this. This couplet lifting pretty much over the trends are, to the north. Let's move it towards Gloverville. See if this picks up. Okay, 40 miles per hour off to the north. Here's some cities and towns under the gun here. Oakland 348, it's heading in your direction right now, just south of 5 Mile Road. Gloversville at 349, Willis Corner at 351, and Longview at 352. So 10-minute lead time for Longview if you're in that area. There's the latest. This is the area we're concerned with, where you see the opposing colors, the brighter blues, I guess you can say now it is. It's moved out of the spectrum of greens, and the brighter oranges and reds here now to the southwest of Red Top and to the north here. There's a brand new update. Move it up. See, it's moving pretty quick. Sack Point Road, Matoaka Road, 5 Mile Road. This would be the area potentially of some extremely gusty winds, potentially caused by a tornado. Radar indicates here between 60 and 70 miles per hour north now of Red Top. Let's see if we got a debris signature with that latest update too. Minimal, right along Route 10 there, Sack Point Road, some indications of potentially some debris in these areas from this circulation that's lifting towards the north, lifting towards 5 Mile Road at this time. So that's the bigger picture. That's currently the only warning, and is only up for another 2 minutes. I would imagine they're going to issue another tornado warning because that signature looks pretty ominous. That would be set up a little bit farther to the east. That may include areas like Gloversville, which currently aren't under a warning, and then eventually towards the Isle of Wight County line. So we should be getting an update on that in the next 2 minutes because our scans here just get more and more.
Yeah, I would certainly expect if you're in Isle of Wight County, if you're in Longview, heading up towards Smithfield or getting close to the foot of the James River Bridge, that you'll want to be at least getting ready to move into a safe spot, because we do have, again, just another minute on this warning, and I do imagine, as you said, Tim, that this will be expanded and pushed into areas of Isle of Wight County. So Longview, Muddy Cross, Great Spring Road, Smithfield, and there's that warning as expected. Longview, Smithfield, Comet, Isle of Wight County. Again, that's exactly the areas that we were talking about. You mentioned Oakland and Gloversville included in that warning. Those areas are under that warning as well. So that warning, again, is for Suffolk and Isle of Wight County until 4:15, moving northwest at 35 miles per hour. Thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located near Kings Fork. Isle of Wight around 350, Smithfield 355, other areas like Comet, Longview, Moonlight, Wills Corner, Bethel Church, Chuckatuck, Lawson, Ben's Church, Central Hill. Those are areas that are under the warning, and I see you put that storm tracker on there.
Yeah, let's put that full screen so folks can see these times and the city and town names of where this is heading. This is a very large tornado warning polygon stretching all the way up through Isle of Wight, including the city of Smithfield. Smithfield under there at 4:03, as that's the expected arrival time of this couplet or this thunderstorm that's capable of producing a tornado that we've been tracking as it moved through Suffolk, building off to the north-northwest at a pretty good clip at 35 miles per hour. So it'll cover a lot of ground over the next hour or so. Isle of Wight 358, Comet around 4:07, Rushmere at 4:12. And this warning is up until 4:15, so a 30-minute window of time that we are under the threat of a potential tornado within this area. The area we've been watching that could be causing a tornado is right on here, where we got the opposing colors, wind speeds moving in opposite directions. This right now looks to be a little bit more spread out. It looks to be dissipating a little bit with this scan, but that's expected. They go in, they cycle. They tighten up, they loosen up, they tighten up as they lift on through in a favorable environment for this type of development. Longview Drive, Everett's Road, 5 Mile Road, Gloversville, likely very, very windy there. Radar indicated wind gusts, 50, 55 miles per hour right now. Pretty strong. And you see the couplet there, that's the new scan.
And Tim, just to complement your coverage here, I believe we have a couple of VDOT cameras.
Yeah, let's go to those.
This is in downtown Suffolk. I believe this is Constance in Maine. You can still see a lot of heavy rain there. You mentioned this is an area that, you know, is likely in the clear as far as tornadoes go, but of course we're approaching the afternoon commute. You want to be mindful of the rain and the flooding there.
Yeah, and you can see the ponding on the roadways, cars driving through, standing water on the roads. It's rainfall that's at a clip that's going to overwhelm drainage basins. So that's another hazard, although a little bit less of a hazard than the tornado potential that's currently out there. And Phil, you mentioned that there's a lower threat now of Suffolk seeing a tornado, which you're right, downtown is moving to the north. But I do want to draw your attention back to radar as we look for more couplets, more suspicious wind shifts. And we've got another one south of downtown here. We've got another couplet that is not currently warned that's in the same area. I feel like we've revisited White Marsh Road enough to say we live there. There's just so much going on in this area. This is like the 4th time we've seen a couplet go through here. And guess what? It's moving towards downtown Suffolk. So if you are in your safe space, even though this is not warned at this time, as we've seen play out here, they do seem to tighten on up as they get farther to the north. So I just want to put that on your radar. To the south and southeast of downtown Suffolk right now, another couplet. The one that is warned still, that has now moved into Isle of Wight, Longview area, north of Everett's, Muddy Cross. This is the couplet right here. This is the spin. We've got winds moving towards the radar site, winds moving away, and they're wrapping around, tightening on up. There's a brand new update. You see the pivot here. This is probably a little inflow notch building towards Bowling Green Road and Muddy Cross. So it's moving pretty quickly at 35 miles per hour. Most of this is situated to the west of Route 10, Cypress Creek Parkway. There is Smithfield, okay? If you're watching from Smithfield right now, the circulation that's in question here that's warned for the potential of a tornado is about a couple miles to your south. So I want you to get in your safe space now. This has had the potential and maybe has already put down a tornado in places as we've tracked it through Suffolk, now moving through Isle of Wight, heading in your general direction there. So keep that in mind. Get to your safe space right now and ride the storm out. It should be pretty rough for the next 20 minutes or so. Down to the south, revisiting that other couplet that's a little bit washed out at the moment. We'll see if it tightens on up as it lifts towards downtown Suffolk. If we've got some gusty winds, they are on the order of maybe close to 50 miles per hour again. So very, very windy in those areas. Radar signatures overall, you can see these just have the signal or the indicator of they're rotating. That's what they're doing. I mean, as they're pivoting on off to the north, they are rotating, and it's just the question of whether or not that rotation tightens up enough to warrant a tornadic threat. And we've seen, I think this is like our 7th tornado warning so far this afternoon. Currently just one in place, and good news too, if you've been watching for a little bit, we were watching this cluster here south. This is the same area that had that signature, Evan, that was moving over the Albemarle. That has weakened.
Yes, it has weakened significantly, and that's what will happen with these bands is they'll come through and you'll see that big thunderstorm and then it'll collapse upon itself. And we've seen that with these storms moving out of North Carolina, though we do have to watch that one that is across western Chesapeake that is moving right now through the Great Dismal Swamp, right around Lake Drummond. That's the big yellow dot there in the center of your screen. It looks more like it's just a broad, heavy area of rain.
Yeah.
And there is one other tornado warning that I'm watching, and you can see behind me that we actually have our storm chaser out there. And there it looks like a stalled car along the side of the road. I'm just watching it. You can see it here behind me. I believe that's Suffolk, and it might be along 13. Yeah, that is along 13 there into Suffolk, speed limit 45, as you can see there. But we saw a stalled car. The rain not coming down too heavy now as what we saw a little bit earlier. And it looks like they're getting close to Obacy Hospital or something, judging by that sign. But, we're going under one of those railroad underpasses. You can see the water spraying up from the vehicle there, spraying up. So certainly there are some pockets of heavy rain out there. There's some of that ponding that is out on the roadways. So as you're out driving around, if you are, that's one of the concerns. We were talking about the heavy rain and the possibility of some flooding. And yeah, that's getting down into just areas just outside of downtown Suffolk. I recognize that. So yes, we do have that heavy rain that is out there. So we have our crews that are all across Hampton Roads watching these storms, and we have them out there in the areas that are seeing some of the heaviest the rain and those tornado warnings, Tim.
Yeah, here's another look at the newest scan for our couplet that we've been watching. There's a brand new scan. I want you to take a look at this sample here when we're starting to see this bend a little bit. So the overall cell is pivoting, spinning. Starting to see this bend here, so a little bit of inflow coming on in here as winds are racing towards the radar site, right? So we got a little bend, inflow notch potentially, right along Carroll Bridge Road. So overall, the signature here is a little more spread out. Okay, so it's not focused and tightened up as we saw when it moved through downtown Suffolk. Here's Smithfield. On this trajectory, this should build by just to your west there. Wind speeds right now, radar indicated, 45, 50 miles per hour south of Smithfield. There's Great Spring Road, Longview area, 45 miles per hour. So radar is pretty much due west there in Wakefield. So it's sampling it a little bit higher up, but nonetheless, this could translate down to the surface with gusty, damaging winds. And overall, this is all lined up within our couplet that we've been watching. In terms of any debris signature with this, if I throw up where our signature is and then put quickly over to our debris detector, not seeing anything of significance lining on up here. Bowling Green Road, you could maybe make the argument that these would be some indicators of some debris, very small debris, if anything, that could very well be lofted by the gusty winds. That's about it. But there it does line up pretty close with where our couplet is near Muddy Cross and Longview. That is not too far south of Smithfield now. So I want you, if you are in Smithfield, take precautions for this. It is looking a little bit more dissipating or a little bit more broad, which is good news. But as we've seen before, this could certainly cycle. Down to the south, we've got another couplet here that's now moving through the same area that was Magnolia, Elephant Fork, eastern areas of downtown Suffolk. It's not as defined or as prominent as the previous couplet that was warned for a tornado. This is not warned, but it's still another round of some gusty winds that's coming in your direction. So if you just went through this last one, you're venturing outside to maybe take pictures of damage or anything like that, it's still very gusty and still likely unsafe to do so. So wait until this couplet also passes, because some of these winds in particular in here could, again, still be up to 40, 50 miles per hour south of Magnolia. So we're watching that one carefully. Only one warning to let you know about, and that's the one here that does encompass Smithfield. It's coming out of central northwestern Suffolk into Isle of Wight, right up to the county line of Surrey. So this is a very large tornado warning polygon. A lot of heavy rain in here, too. Phil was just showing us some VDOT cameras out in Suffolk that we saw vehicles driving through with, flooded streets. That's the type of setup you're seeing here. So it's hazardous on the roadway surfaces, and it's hazardous slightly above it with the winds and the potential of a tornado. Longview, Everett's area into Smithfield, all of these are under a tornado warning. I want to give you an updated track here with a movement to the north. Oh, there's an update on the tornado warning. See, they've shaved it back. So it's now completely out of Suffolk and encompassing most of northern Isle of Wight. Let's put a storm track on this and give you some times of arrivals. So Longview, so it is now 3:54. Longview, you've got 2 minutes. Smithfield, you've got a little longer than that, which is some good news. You've got 10 minutes to get to your safe place. And on this trajectory, you are on the far eastern side of this polygon. You see Smithfield here. Polygon extends out to the west, out past Comet, but still a potential of some gusty winds. Comet itself at 4:08. Rushmere at 4:13. And Poolsville at 4:17. The potential's there. Tornado warning radar indicated right now. We've been watching this as it tracks out of downtown Suffolk, and we still have a pretty dominant signature here that is now located south of Suffolk. So indicators by this warning is that this lifts in this direction to the northwest. I still think you'll see impacts in Suffolk for sure. Very gusty winds. Radar indicated winds near Great Spring Road 35, 47 near Muddy Cross, 45 north of Longview 45. So winds, at least radar indicated, are below thresholds for a severe thunderstorm, but nonetheless, you also have to take into account that we are saturated. We've had a lot of rain over the last week or so, last 2 weeks really. Root systems are compromised. You get a gust of 40 miles an hour, you can certainly take some down. Phil, do we have any updates on power outages?
Let's get to the, let's bring up the screen. Do we still have that, y'all?
And if you don't have it now, yeah, it's fine. Just let me know when you do.
Yeah, no updates really. Last check, 750 homes in North Carolina at least.
Okay.
We're out of power, but I don't believe we have an updated number.
I'll be interested to see if we get any numbers coming in out of Suffolk after that, that couplet went on through. So if you do get any of that, just let me know. So this is our couplet here that's still warned south of Smithfield, Great Spring Road. There it is, okay. You can see the gradual spin here. It is much larger now, okay? If there was going to be something that tries to pinch off, it would be in this area here where you see the green go over to red, opposing wind speeds, right? So you're getting that spin, that notch right there. Great Spring Road, Smithfield, Lawson, building in your general direction here. Off to your west-northwest, Muddy Cross area. All right, how's it look on radar everywhere else? If you're watching and saying, what about me? Where I'm living, it's not doing anything. You're right. I mean, most of the activity here is well to the east, or excuse me, the west. Directions are hard. All right, well to the west, and this tornado warning behind it is left behind a flood advisory for all the heavy rain. This one little cell here that's in to the southeast of downtown Suffolk was showing a couplet earlier, but is now washed out, which is some good news. Any sort of debris signature anywhere with this other cell that's up towards Smithfield? No, not seeing anything, which is some good news. And overall, Evan, I mean, we've got this cell here. This probably should be it in terms of warnings for a little bit, at least. But the tornado watch that's up for most of the area goes till 8 o'clock. And we'll probably see that extended.
That's right, Tim, and we have two of our storm vehicles out there. We want to go to Nehemiah Bell. He's out in Isle of Wight County, approaching the Smithfield area where we have that tornado warning. And you can see this is one of our big concerns when you have the tornado warnings is look at all the folks that are out there on the roadways. And again, we've got the heavy rain, people zipping by you. You know, if you have that water that's been ponding out there on the roads, that could create a hazard because you could hydroplane. And you can see the folks that are out there trying to get home after a long day of work, and you're under that tornado warning. So, you know, we really advise not to, you know, if you can, not to be quite on the roadways. We, you know, when we direct our folks who are out there, we advise them where to go ahead of the storm, and then once they get close, you know, or the storm is encroaching on their area, they get out of the way. So that's something that we definitely want to make sure that you know that we are in constant contact with all of our crews that are out there, so we're not putting them in jeopardy. Right now, again, that's Nehemiah Bell, who is out in Isle of Wight County, near Smithfield, the area that is under the warning. And as we come up here, just almost at the top of the hour, we want to know that folks will be joining us. We want to reset here, let you know that as we get here towards the top of the hour, this is 13 News Now at 4. We are starting in a weather alert day because we have a tornado warning, a weather alert day as the remnants here of Debbie that's moving through North Carolina and Virginia are producing this severe weather. So 13 News Now at 4 starts now with a tornado warning on this weather alert day, Tim.
Yeah, Evan, let's go back over to Smithfield. I want to show you what it looks like here on our couplet that we've been tracking lifting towards Smithfield. And it is pretty much approaching downtown, all right? You've got this couplet here, the opposing wind speeds and colors, indicating that there could be something trying to pinch off and develop into a tornado here to the south. This is right along Scott's Factory Road, just to the west of Muddy Cross, okay? This is a tornado warning for this cell. Radar indicated, so nothing ground confirmed here, but this would be the area that we'd watch for the potential of something trying to put down a tornado. Cypress Creek Parkway, this is like due south of downtown Smithfield, okay? So we've got, James River Bridge there, well to the east, moving up towards, there's a brand new update on it. See the brighter colors? So here we are, zooming in a little bit more. Great Spring Road, Waterworks Road, Foursquare, pretty much right along Highway 10 there. Seeing Vivian Drive. This is going to be the area for the strongest winds. In fact, radar indicated wind speeds, 55 miles per hour, 50 miles per hour, in this area, Scott's Factory Road. So this is what we're going to be watching for. Radar shows very heavy rain, so if there is any sort of funnel cloud or tornado in this, it is going to be rain wrapped and very hard to see, low visibility. But Smithfield here, heavy rain across the area there now, reduced visibilities, and the potential within that. If we kind of peel away the radar of the rain, we can see what the winds are doing. So that's this product here, wind speed. And this is showing winds that are moving towards the radar in Wakefield in the green, red moving away. So you get opposing wind speeds and colors showing that there's a couplet and there's spin. So this is what we've been watching here. This is the same cell that moved through downtown Suffolk 30 minutes ago, moving at 35 miles per hour off to the north. So let's put a brand new track on it for you. If you're just tuning in for 13 News Now at 4.
And a quick update, Tim.
Sure.
Just got a text from our newsroom. 48 customers without power right now near Sleepy Hole Park in Suffolk. And that's because of a damaged power line. 48 customers right there in that specific area, Sleepy Hole Park in Suffolk.
Okay. Yeah, I would expect that we'll see numbers growing because some of these wind speeds in here are pretty interesting and high. Great Spring Road, Smithfield, again, seeing that. Let me put a track on it because I wasn't getting much. Here we go, to the north. Yeah, Lawson at 406. So it's moving by. I don't want you to think Smithfield's not going to get impacts here. It is moving by probably just to your west. There we go, just to the west of Smithfield. You can see there, Berry Hill Road moving over there. Great Spring Road is where it currently is with some of the strongest of the winds. Wind speeds here, 45, maybe close to 50 miles per hour within this. So they are gradually weakening. Each time we sample this, it is lower wind speeds. So that's a good thing. But there's still, the rotation is there still. It's not looking as impressive as it did. Anything else anywhere? I don't see much. We're quieting down for at least a period of time. We do have a tornado watch up for most of the area. Let me pull it up here. Our tornado watch is up until 8 o'clock. So most of the area, the exception being the eastern shore. They will likely probably be included in the update on this that I do expect to be including all of us through tonight. Because, as Debbie is not moving very fast, as we've been tracking it for the last couple of days. I think it's moving at 10 miles per hour now. So in terms of lightning, not seeing much at all. And that's an interesting thing to note about these storms, is that they are low-topped. In and of themselves, they're not very strong. What's helping them produce tornadoes and get warned is the wind energy that's already there. And guess where that's from? Debbie, the outermost fringe elements of Debbie, the wind speed aloft is helping these to kind of spin a little bit easier in this atmosphere, taking advantage of the warm, humid conditions. It's got the fuel. So we've got the wind energy produced into some tornadoes. Potentially, we've had several warnings this afternoon. We're down to one single one that's up till 4:15, so 12 more minutes on this particular one that is right near the Smithfield area. In fact, let's get back in there and show you. We're getting scans on this pretty much every couple of minutes. And this one here shows the couplet due west of downtown Smithfield. So here we are at Waterworks Road. This is where you're going to find the gustiest winds. And if there was a potential tornado, it would be in here. There's Lawson, building up pretty much right along 10, and likely will stay just to the west of 10 there as well. Anything to update, Evan?
No, that is exactly what we're seeing here, Tim, with that storm that is moving up Highway 10, approaching Rushmere. Eventually, if that circulation holds together, that would take it up into areas around Surrey County. So we'll go ahead and give that early alert towards areas around Chip Oaks and Beachland and Delk Crossroads. Those are the areas that we're watching. Pleasant Point. So that would carry it up into areas of eastern Surrey County as we go here, if this warning is allowed to continue and expand off towards the north. This current warning goes until 4:15, but it could be expanded off towards the north into Surrey County if we continue to see that circulation showing up on the radar, which, as you've been mentioning, Tim, it's kind of broadened out a little bit, but we're still seeing that right here around SEPTA along Mill Swamp Road, Old Stage Highway, pushing up towards Moonlight. So this is right along the edge of the James River now, pushing right through northern areas of Isle of Wight County. Been mentioning some of those roads: Bethany Church Road, Warrens Mill Road, Kings Landing Lane, one of the communities there that is just off of Highway 10. So that would carry it up towards Rushmere. It stays on that northern track, and then eventually into Poolesville up towards Chip Oaks and Alliance, staying right along 10, almost into areas just towards the east of Surrey and Surrey County. So we'll have to watch that warning to see if it gets extended here in about the next 10 minutes or so. One thing that has been interesting, and I've been following along with the National Weather Service, is there have not been a lot of reports of damage, which is good news, certainly. We had that one tree that was down through Gates County. I can put on the local storm reports, and we're not seeing much. We've seen just the report of that funnel cloud that is down there north of Raleigh. I flashed that on. And the good news is that line that is moving right along the Chewan River between Hertford County and Gates County, from Winton over towards Rays Beach, Harrelsville, Cannon Ferry. We put on the wind speeds, the detection there. We're not seeing a lot of those reds and greens together, maybe a little bit down here south of Harrelsville, something, but it's not as tight, not as broad as what we were seeing with a lot of these thunderstorms earlier this afternoon. So that's certainly some good news as the Tropical Storm Debbie continues to pass well to our west, but it's the east side of it that we're always watching for the potential for some of these strongest thunderstorms and some of these spin-up tornadoes that pop up on some of those outer rain bands.
Yeah, Evan, I do want to, we do have an update for a storm report here, if we can go large on Max 2. One report coming out of Cora Peak area earlier, 2:20, so about 90 minutes ago. Reports of a few trees down on power lines, possible brief touchdown according to radar. So that was the warning we were watching earlier with that tightly coupled area of wind in opposing directions there. So that's some ground truth there. At least there's some damage from downed trees in those areas. Off to the north, I want to go over to Nehemiah, who's out in our weather vehicle, who's in Smithfield, where they are currently under a tornado warning. Let's go up and see what that imagery looks like out in Smithfield right now. Raining, obviously, we can see on radar we've got some heavy downpours in those areas. Our couplet that we're watching for the potential of a tornado is now just to the northwest of downtown Suffolk. You can see it getting a little tighter here as it's building towards Rushmere and likely just to the west of Lawson. See the brighter colors, brighter greens, almost bluish, and then the brighter reds. Those are opposing wind speeds and directions, so we've got a spin. Is it reaching the ground? Unclear at this time, and I don't see any indicator of debris getting lofted. If you've been watching through this afternoon, we often pull this up when we get a couplet that is suspicious for being a ground truth tornado to see if we get any indicator on it on our debris detector. And what this does is it shows if there's anything that gets thrown up in the air that gets picked up by a tornado. Don't see that here. We have earlier. We don't see it currently, which is good news. Our couplet, though, certainly bringing some gusty winds. Bethany Church Road. Let's look at some of these wind speeds here in this area, potentially over Wrens Mill Road. Oh, okay, 8 miles per hour. That's interesting. Looked a little bit more than that, but I guess not. All right, here's a look at Bethany Church Road. If there are any gusty winds that are higher than 8 miles per hour, they are in this area. Rushmere, about to get some winds gusting in your area. Poolesville, heading in your direction. I'll put one more storm track on it before I send it back over to you, Evan. 35 miles per hour, moving due north, it looks like here. maybe towards the James River, but certainly eastern portions of Surrey. Moonlight around 412, Poolesville 418, Highgate 423. I'm standing in front of it. Let's move that over here so you can see it a little bit better. Holly Point at around 416 and Homewood at 430. So this is the final couplet, the final warning that we currently have in place right now that expires in 6 minutes. So we'll see if they continue that or not. But for now, Evan, things look to be quieting down downstream, which is good after a good 2.5-hour run of some tornado coverage.
Yeah, that's true. I've been watching some of those wind reports. I got some of the updated ones there through parts of Isle of Wight County. You were mentioning around Bethany Church Road. If we go to Max 1, you'll be able to see some of those wind gusts that's been estimated by radar, 48, 56 miles per hour, 41. So there are still some gusty winds, and we had the earlier reports of some of the power outages down across Gates County. Of course, that goes right in line with where we had those reports of some of the trees down that Tim was reporting. And now this couplet here and these gusty winds getting very close to the line as we move out of Isle of Wight County into Surrey County. So those gusty winds, that couplet now looking like it's closer to Burrells Bay Road, Tack Lane, just ever so slightly to the southwest of Rushmere. So that would bring it up towards Poolesville, Highgate Road, and just east of Surrey, Alliance, and close to Chip Oaks and Pleasant Point. No word yet from the National Weather Service if they're going to extend this warning. I would not be surprised based on that signature that we're seeing right there on the radar, be it the two different types of velocities that we're looking at, the wind speeds. Fortunately, we're not seeing anything as far as debris detection. We haven't seen that for a while. We saw it with quite a few of the warnings earlier this afternoon, but now we have that pretty much broad brushed area of the purple in there. So we're not seeing that, but there is some turbulence. And this product tends to run a scan or two late. But again, we are seeing that again around Bethany Church Road, Burrells Bay Road, Moonlight, just towards the west of Highway 10, right along the river. And that's the area that is still under that tornado warning here for about another 3.5 minutes or so. It would not be surprised if this warning is extended up into areas of Surrey County, and that could eventually, depending on the speed of this, I wouldn't be surprised if that warning even clips the James River and crosses over into James City County, and maybe even includes parts of Williamsburg. So if that warning is extended, and I haven't seen anything from the Weather Service saying they are going, there we go.
Yep.
Exactly as we expected, that warning has been extended. It does include James City County, kind of nicks off that little corner there of the city of Williamsburg, but it does include James City County, Surrey County, and that runs until 4:45, Tim.
Yeah, and that seems to be the last cell that looks to be suspicious moving through our area right now. I do want to reiterate, as we talked about at the top of the show, that we do have a tornado watch that's up for the entire area until 8 o'clock tonight. But there are indications with nothing changing much with Debbie. I mean, it's still well to our south and west. We have the energy in place. We have the spin. I bet this does get extended through the overnight, which is why we had talked about the prime time of a tornado threat being Thursday afternoon into early Friday morning as we see more bands, outermost fringe bands of Debbie pivot on through the area. Bigger picture, though, aside from those warnings, here's a look at the last 3 hours. It's been one single band here that's been the most problematic, and the last of it is now lifting up towards the I-64 corridor and eventually to the west towards the Richmond area. Down to the south, the environment still remains favorable for tornadic storms. So we'll see if anything else develops to our southeast and pivots to the north and west. And that's what we'll be watching for the rest of this evening and through the overnight. For the most part, off to the east, closer to the water, it's been uneventful. Out in Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, Norfolk itself, Eastern Shore certainly. Not much going on. It's all been off to the west. Suffolk has been the ground zero pretty much into Gates County, and then eventually moved into Isle of Wight and Surrey, which is what we're currently seeing in terms of any threats, which would be from a tornado. Latest scans here in terms of our couplet, which still looks very impressive here, just south of Rushmere, has now cleared Smithfield. Smithfield, you are all clear. The threat is past for you to see the impacts from a possible tornado. It is now to your north and west, moving pretty quickly. Poolesville now under the gun, Moonlight Road. Rushmere, Bailey's Beach. This is likely heading in this general direction. Here's the center moving towards Poolesville and towards Highway 10 again, just to the west of Rushmere. So let's put a storm track on it for you. I believe it's still moving at 40 miles per hour and we'll put the center of that couplet up towards Chip Oaks. Poolsville at 418, excuse me, Chip Oaks at 4.
Yeah, I'll take over, Tim.
Go ahead.
You know, obviously, after we talk for quite a while, we start to get the coughs and stuff. So one of the other things that we're watching with this is some of the heavy rain and the potential for that flash flooding. So I want to take a look at some of the radar estimates for rainfall here as we go through Suffolk and Isle of Wight County, and I'll put on again some of the numbers here as I pop those down into Suffolk. We were seeing some areas, let me see if I can, that were showing up closer to 4 inches of rain here just south of the downtown Suffolk area. So I wouldn't be totally surprised if at some point here in the very near future we start to see some flash flood warnings being posted. There you can see around Russell and White Marsh Road. 4.3 inches of rain, 3 inches up near Kenyon, Pitch Kettle Circle, 2.9. So that extends up into Isle of Wight County as well. So I would not be surprised if at some point we start to see flash flood warnings issued for some of these areas that have seen these training thunderstorms. There's been a lot more across North Carolina, back towards Raleigh. But you can almost see, even in this image here, how we kind of had those bands set up. These were the areas that we saw those warnings for these tornado warnings that moved out of North Carolina. That's also where we've seen some of the heaviest of the rain. So those areas we saw on some of our vehicles that were out as our storm chasers were out there chasing these storms. We saw the water splashing up and stuff. And that, a lot of that is, again, because we have seen, just so much rain over the last couple of hours. So we have that flood advisory that is already in effect for parts of Suffolk and Isle of Wight. Wouldn't be surprised if on top of this tornado warning through Isle of Wight and possibly into Suffolk that we see flash flood warnings issued as well, Tim.
Yeah, and I want to get over to one of our reporters out in the field. Stephanie Johnson is out in, where is she at, guys? She's out in Suffolk. Let's get over to her and see what she's seen so far in her travels through the city.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm in downtown Suffolk right now, and as you can see, the roads are pretty clear, but about probably 15 minutes ago, it was a different story. It was heavy rain, and the visibility on the road was very low, but as you can see right now, it's pretty clear. But that doesn't mean that there could be parts of flooding on the road. But so far what we've seen is not much flooding on the roads. However, if cars or drivers do encounter some flooding, it's best to just turn around and don't drive through it. And the county or the area, the city is also putting on their Facebook page for drivers to be aware of the road conditions because of the severe weather that just came through. So right now, as you can see, roads are clear here in Suffolk. The visibility is better and the rain is not coming down as hard. So driving along these roads are much better than they were just about probably 20 minutes ago. But that's how it's looking right now in Suffolk, downtown Suffolk. So we're going to continue to ride around and see what else we can find. But in the meantime, Stephanie Johnson, live in Suffolk 13 News Now. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Stephanie. If you can still hear me, it'd be great if you can get over to the Magnolia area and check out there where we had that couplet move through and the tornado warning within the last hour to see if there is, in fact, any damage reports in that area. We'll check in with you again in just a little while. But here's the latest update on radar. Evan and I have been tracking tornado warned cells all afternoon. Our last one that's currently in effect now for a little while longer, I believe it's a 4:30, correct, Evan?
4:45.
4:45 is up into eastern portions of Surrey at this time. You can see where the spin would potentially be located near Poolsville. And I will tell you, this latest scan here does show it's back into a weakening phase. And we've seen this pulse up and pulse down. It's likely in a pulse down phase right now. We have certainly some gusty winds, but it doesn't look very tightened up. It looks more broad and stretched out, if you will. You can kind of see the differences in the colors stretched out over a longer area just to the south and southwest of Poolsville at this time. But it is building to the north, and it's been moving pretty quickly at around 35 miles per hour or so. On radar, Evan hinted at this earlier, that besides the tornado threat, we are seeing the ongoing risk of flooding, and that's been one of the two hazards we were expecting with the remnants of Debbie, right? Flash flooding and the tornado threat. We have both going on right now. This one is this cell that's been producing the possible tornado has rainfall rates that are, up to around an inch or so, an inch and a quarter, an inch and a third. So that's certainly enough to cause lower visibilities and for a time at least, lead to some street flooding before the drainage basins can catch on up. So this is right over, Rushmere area, moved through Smithfield earlier. Very heavy rainfall here. But back to the southeast of this cell, there's not a whole lot else going on, which is good, a little bit of a break. However, we're not really done with Debbie. We see here over the last 3 hours, we've got waves, the outer bands, more tornado bands here out to the northeast of Raleigh. All of this will gradually push into our area, so late tonight. So tornado watch is up till 8 o'clock for most of the area. I do expect that to probably be extended through the overnight. So it's going to be a long duration event, kind of watching and seeing how it unfolds here. But currently just one single tornado warning. You can see where it currently is up in the eastern portions of Surrey, James City County, western portions there. It does not include the city of Williamsburg right now. Gusty winds, heavy rain just outside the city, but at least right now it looks okay in your direction for the time being. Evan?
Yeah, I'm going here and I'm switching over some of our graphics to look at the satellite view. And as we take, there you can see, if we can take Max 1, you'll be able to see that I've switched that over to the satellite view. And a couple of things that we're noticing, let me turn off some of these radars in here, is that we're seeing a lot of dry air that is starting to be pulled in to the side and the southern edge of the system. Let me get over here. So even though the center of circulation is here, somewhere towards the southwest of Raleigh, notice once you get south of Raleigh, there is a lot of dry air that is now being pulled into the center of Debbie. So we'll watch these bands that move through, but I think most of the rain and some of these rain bands as some of that dry air pulls in, but still as it transitions tomorrow, it's going to run into a cold front that is to the north, start to transition into an area of low pressure. We could see in another round of some of these strong thunderstorms moving through. Some of our Futurecast models have been showing that as we have gone for the past several days. They've been pretty consistent that late tonight and into tomorrow, we could see another band moving through. Again, we have that tornado watch until 8 o'clock tonight. And here's the latest in the 2 o'clock advisory. The storm will rapidly move towards the north and east. And the good news is once we get towards even later Friday and this weekend, things are definitely starting to improve. But next several hours, we are looking at the rain, we're looking at the showers and the thunderstorms here. So it is going to be a wet afternoon and late afternoon and a wet evening here through Hampton Roads. And we'll be here tracking this line. Again, we have that one warning here in Hampton Roads, but as Tim mentioned, down towards Rocky Mount, once again, some of the same areas that had warnings earlier through Nash, Edgecombe, and Wilson counties, seeing those tornado warnings. So we'll have to watch what happens with those lines. As they move north, get closer to Hampton Roads, Interstate 95, we could once again see a few more of these warnings popping up. But right now, the one that we have is for another 24 minutes or so through parts of Isle of Wight County and into Surrey County, James City County, right along the James River. Tim.
Yeah, the one active warning out there until 4:45, as you mentioned, Evan. So it's for Isle of Wight, James City, and portions of Surrey County. Pretty large tornado warning polygon there. But when we look into the storm, kind of peel away what the radar shows in terms of rainfall and what the wind direction's doing, I will tell you the couplet signature that we've been watching is looking a whole lot more washed out with the last couple of runs here. Certainly still some gusty winds, but I wouldn't be surprised if this gets canceled before it expires at 4:45, because there's not really any bullseye couplet that we're seeing here. Certainly some gusty winds. We could put some numbers on some of these wind speeds in this general area, which is 20 miles per hour, and it's nothing really extraordinary at this point in time. But just north of Surrey, 35 miles per hour, crossing the river, getting towards James City County, 25, 30 miles per hour. So each time we query these numbers, they are getting lower. So the cell itself is likely weakening as it's building over a worked over atmosphere, right? So this cell is moving over areas that had 3-4 severe thunderstorms move through it. The energy has been depleted from the atmosphere there. All it's got is the wind energy. So it's still spinning, but it's not able to consolidate enough and you focus that energy on a potential tornado anymore, I don't think. At least that's what it's presenting as. So we got gusty winds still now crossing the James River, but no couplet really forming, at least right now. I did mention earlier that these cells have tended to pulse up and pulse down. Could we be in a prolonged pulse down scenario? Sure, but I think that's less likely. I think we're looking at an area of a storm moving over a worked over atmosphere for now. It's used a lot of its energy, so we're going to see a lot of rain here still and some gusty winds in this area that's under the warning. That's up for another 20 minutes, but odds are, at least a higher possibility now, that it could be discontinued, Evan, as we go through the next 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, definitely seeing that with that circulation starting to broaden out. They become not quite as tight and not as significant looking on the displays there. You know, as we're looking at those wind speeds on the radar display, we're not seeing, again, you know, that tightening, and we're not certainly seeing any of the indications like we were earlier. This is that debris detection, and again, when it's all washed out into that purple color, that's an indication that you know, everything that the radar is picking up is a raindrop. The little thing about the radars is they send out two pulses, a horizontal and a vertical, so a side by side and an up and down, and that allows the radar to see how big every individual raindrop is. It's amazing technology, but using that horizontal and the vertical, you can see if something is a raindrop. If it comes back as these oblong shapes, then you know that it is not a raindrop, it is not a hailstone, it is not a snowflake. You know, there are all these formulas that tell the radar that this is a raindrop or a snowflake. It can tell if something is larger, if it's a limb, if it's a leaf, if it's a branch. And also use the radar to see which direction those raindrops are moving. It's something that I think most people have experienced, something called the Doppler effect. And that's why this is a true Doppler radar. If you've ever been at a railroad crossing and you can hear the change in pitch of a train whistle, it starts out high as the train is coming towards you, and then as it passes, that sound sort of trails off and gets lower. That's the compression of those sound waves. You know, it gets higher pitch as it's coming towards you and lower pitch as it's moving away. That's what the radar is doing, but it's seeing the difference in the radar beam as something is coming towards it or moving away from it. And this is amazing technology that has been developed over the past 30, 40 years that enable us to see inside of the storms. It used to be you could just see the raindrops. Now we can see which way they're moving, their size, their shape, and anything else that is in there. And that's how we are able to get these warnings out and be able to dive down into those storms. So let's again get the latest on what we're tracking here. That warning that extends again for about another 18, 19 minutes, and we'll switch over to that wind speed mode, that velocity mode. And if I were to pick out where we could be seeing any kind of rotation now, it's certainly much closer to the James River, pointing over towards Pleasant Point and Old Town Road, Rocky Bottom Road, just north of Alliance. It's still fairly broad, but that would be the area of rotation that we're watching, and that's getting close to the James River. It moves almost due north. That will carry it across the James River into James City County, which is under this warning, and areas around First Colony, so just west of the downtown Williamsburg area. So you're getting up there closer towards Centerville Road, Brandon Woods Parkway, the Colonial National Historical Park, Glass House, the Colonial Parkway there. And here we have probably just an update on that tornado warning. It has been trimmed back a little bit. That's kind of what we were expecting here. So let me get back to that first map. So that is just an update, and we have seen areas of Isle of Wight County rather taken out of that warning. So now we're really focused on Isle of Wight County, the James River, and James City County. So around Chip Oaks, as we mentioned, Pleasant Point, getting up there towards that First Colony area, not seeing anything with debris, not seeing as much in the way of any kind of turbulence. We were seeing some of those yellows and oranges showing up with some of these signatures earlier, and we're not seeing that now. So that's certainly a good sign. And even that rotation is getting a little more broad, not looking as strong, not looking as significant of some of that rotation that we were seeing earlier. And even some of these wind speeds are not as high as what we were seeing earlier as well, Tim.
Yeah, and that trend is our friend here. I mean, every time we pin some of these wind speeds, they are lower than the time before, which indicates that the cell overall is weakening and its tornadic energy is diminishing. So here, I just pulled these up as well, and these are coming in below 35 miles per hour for most. And the threshold for a severe thunderstorm warning would be over 55. So we're not even close to that anymore. Which is an improving signal here. So the wind gusts are not there anymore. In terms of the winds changing speed and direction with height, not seeing that much really tightening up either It's very drawn out, very ragged, very washed out near the northern portions and northeast portions of Surrey County. Here's the James River, James City County, Williamsburg. Certainly maybe a breezy conditions, very heavy rainfall. We can look at radar here, and there is some heavy rain, especially as you get closer over to Williamsburg. And some of these rainfall rates are 1.25 inches per hour, so even close to 2 inches per hour down farther to the south of Pleasant Point. So that looks to be a greater hazard right now than the potential of seeing a tornado in this cell. Gusty winds, sure. Lower visibility at this time of day when folks are on the roadways for an evening commute is a little bit more of something that'll be worrisome or a little bit more impactful. So 1.25 to 1.75 inches per hour rainfall rates in this, that could lead to some ponding on the roadways over the next couple of hours here. But that's the bigger picture. That's the only cell that we're watching now. Most of the rest of the area is quiet, so I'm comfortable now with watching this behind the scenes, and if anything changes with it, jumping on in, guys. But we'll send it back over to Phil and Dana to talk more about today's news.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we are still under a tornado watch until 8 tonight. Let's get to the 4:30 newscast here, Dana.
All right, let's do it. We're going to continue to keep you updated on Debbie and the impacts throughout the evening, but 13 News Now at 4:30 starts right now.
All right, we've just been covering Tropical Storm Debbie, the bands of Tropical Storm Debbie. You're looking at our 13 News Now storm vehicle out in, where is it out right now? Suffolk still. Let's get to Evan Stewart, meteorologist Evan Stewart, who has been tracking this for the past several hours now, Evan. Actually, we're going to go to Stephanie Johnson, who is live in that SUV. Stephanie, what's the latest out there?
Yeah, right now, as you see, guys, the roads are pretty clear. We're on North 664 now. We are heading towards Magnolia Park in Suffolk. The roads are clear, but there are signs along the road telling drivers to be careful of floods, of flooding that could impact their driving. People are taking it slow out here. The roads are slippery, and the rain is coming down slow, but nothing too bad. Visibility is not bad out here as well. Again, though, county officials on Facebook for Suffolk are asking drivers to take their time on the road. The severe weather came through, and there are pockets of flooded areas along the roads while we were driving, just about earlier before this hit, that we saw pockets of floods on the side of the road. So they want people to just be careful as they're on the road. But we have not seen no bad flooding, but they just want people to be safe, city officials. And again, we're in Suffolk. We're heading towards Magnolia Park to see what flood damage is, what the water has done to that area, and if there is any flood damage there. But in Suffolk, Stephanie Johnson, 13 News Now. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks so much, Stephanie. We are keeping in contact with Stephanie just to make sure she is safe out there on the roadways, because you do want to pay close attention to this storm. We spoke with FEMA yesterday about this, and they spoke about the importance of not underestimating a tropical storm. You know, sometimes we hear that word and we compare it to a hurricane. We think it's not as strong, but these tornado warnings, these watches can really prove just how powerful these storms can be. So it is important that you do stay weather alert today.
All right, we'll check back in with Stephanie in just a few. And earlier today, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper meeting with members of the National Guard and swift water rescue teams to discuss impacts of Tropical Storm Debbie. He confirmed the storm has claimed one life so far. That's a man in Wilson County. And about 125,000 homes are currently without power. You're getting a look here at the damage there in North Carolina. Cooper also mentioning the tornadoes causing this damage in various parts. You can see the damage at Springfield Middle School. That's in Wilson County. Today, Cooper warning that the slow-moving storm still has not passed through the state.
North Carolina continues to face unrelenting rain and destruction from Tropical Storm Debbie. And obviously, this is not over. Rain is still coming down.
And with the storm predicted to ramp up tonight in some areas, the governor says he's upping the number of National Guard members activated. Swift water rescue teams are also in place, some already working to provide help.
Well, as we continue tracking Tropical Storm Debbie, our team of meteorologists will provide in-depth forecasts of the storm and what you can expect. You can get those updates on the 13 News Now Plus app on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. You can look for them twice a day, once at 7 p.m. and another at 9 a.m. And of course, stay tuned with us here on 13 News Now as we track this storm. After the break, with less than 90 days left in the race for the White House, candidates battle for votes in the Midwest. And later, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin is taking action against potential voter fraud in a new executive order.
No application fee if you apply by August 29th at University of Maryland Global Campus, offering online and hybrid courses and lifetime career services. Learn about our more than 135 degrees and certificates at umgc.edu.
When customers ask us, how do I know I'm getting the best price? We say, it's pretty simple. Just look at the tag. Our digital tags show the price from our competitors so you can see that our price is the lowest. Yep, that's the lowest price. Ooh, this one too. Holy cow, this one's really low. Well, I think it's safe to say they're all the lowest price. Start your next appliance search at East Coast Appliance, where our digital tags always make sure you get the best price or it's free.
Hi there, it's Joan with Small Dream Home Buyers. We're the team in your neighborhood buying as-is houses for cash. We buy it all: inherited houses, foreclosures, haunted houses, lots of land, commercial properties, multifamily, even nicer homes you need to sell. Best of all, don't make any repairs and no closing costs.
For a fair cash offer, call 757-888-SELL.
Don't do it alone. Call Small Dream Home Buyers to buy your home.
Mom, check my height.
As a parent, you do everything you can to provide for your kid so they can grow into their best self.
Same height. Sorry.
But sometimes you need a little extra help.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks to Food Lion Feeds, I don't have to worry if he's getting enough of what he needs. And that's made all the difference for us.
Here to fill tables and hearts with hope.
I've grown an inch. Yes!
Food Lion Feeds, here for every moment.
Drive change by donating your car to Eggleston. All vehicles, makes and models, any condition. Earn a tax deduction. Help persons with disabilities. Create jobs for veterans and make car buying affordable to those in need. Car auctions every other weekend. All vehicles are available to preview before auction. Proceeds stay local. Donate a car, change a life. Call 757-963-8393 or visit egglestonservices.org.
Bob's Discount Furniture presents this year's biggest challenge. Dare to compare. It's got action. It's got suspense. And best of all, you get to play too. Now open in Chesapeake and coming soon to Newport News.
I'm Press Your Luck. We make dreams come true.
This is such a blessing.
Oh, I'm crying. I'm so happy.
Woo! Houston, you have a problem.
Get out of here.
Press Your Luck, tonight on ABC.
All right, welcome back. Right now, this is a live look to Norfolk, where we've been experiencing some strong winds and scattered rain across Hampton Roads, northeast North Carolina all day. We will have more weather coverage coming up in just a few minutes, so stick with us as we continue to track Tropical Storm Debbie. But in the meantime, 13 News Now does have everything you need to know to stay alert during the storm. So just check out our free hurricane guide. That's on our website, 13newsnow.com. You can also check out the special storm explainer videos on our Facebook and YouTube pages and our website. Just scan this QR code on your screen right now to get that guide.
Shifting gears now, things are still heating up in the 2024 presidential election as candidates from both parties are out on the campaign trail. Former President Donald Trump holding a press conference today at his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida, blasting Vice President Kamala Harris and her new running mate. ABC's Jay O'Brien has more.
After days off the campaign trail and out of the public eye, former President Donald Trump holding a rare press conference from Mar-a-Lago, claiming he's agreed to 3 debates with Vice President Kamala Harris, including one hosted by ABC News.
I just look forward to these debates. I think it's very important that we have them.
Trump then going after Harris and her new running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
We have somebody that hasn't received 1 vote for president, and she's running. And that's fine with me. But we were given Joe Biden, and now we're given somebody else. And I think, frankly, I'd rather be running against somebody else. But that was their choice. They decided to do that because Kamala's record is horrible.
Meantime, Harris and Walz still on the campaign trail, postponing events in North Carolina and Georgia because of Tropical Storm Debbie, but holding another event today in must-win Michigan. In front of a packed house of 15,000 supporters last night in Detroit, Harris facing her first handful of protesters calling for a ceasefire in Gaza since she became the Democratic nominee. The vice president responding.
You know what? If you want Donald Trump to win, then say that, otherwise I'm speaking.
Harris and Walz will continue their introductory tour with a rally tomorrow in Phoenix and then Saturday in Las Vegas. Trump has a rally planned for this weekend in Montana. Jay O'Brien, ABC News, Washington.
And yesterday, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin taking steps he says will ensure safe elections in Virginia this year and in years to come. Executive Order 35 codifies election security measures that he's implemented since taking office, including rigid ballot security, thorough testing of ballot counting machines, and secure voter list maintenance. The Department of Elections will be responsible for making sure that each year these measures are in place. The order comes as political experts say Republicans are looking to flip Virginia red in November. Former President Donald Trump praising Youngkin's executive order in a post to Truth Social last night, saying Youngkin is, quote, taking a strong lead in securing the election this November.
When we return, Tropical Storm Debbie continues to impact Hampton Roads, how the city of Norfolk is preparing. And later, a storm like Debbie is bound to cause some traveling woes. We'll get a live look from Norfolk International Airport after the break.
Let's get you ready for fall. It's a big win. Let's do it.
Ryan Seacrest joins Vanna White this fall on Wheel of Fortune.
I'm ready!
Weeknights at 7.
Tracking Debbie as the storm makes its way towards Hampton Roads. Stay tuned to the 13 News Now weather team around the clock for forecast updates. We'll keep you informed on the storm's track and the impacts we'll feel in our area.
During the Make This the Summer event at Southern Ram in Chesapeake and Norfolk, we've got a move new 2024 inventory. Low APR financing available or make no payments for 3 months. See Southern Ram today. DrivingSouthern.com.
Members of the military put their lives on the line to protect us. In appreciation for their service, here are a few tips to help protect yourself from health complications down the line. For men, prostate cancer screening should start at age 40 or as early as 35 if you have a family history. And women over 40 should talk to their doctors about when to start and how often to get a mammogram.
Military Now Health Tips are sponsored by Hampton University Proton Cancer Institute. For more information, visit hamptonproton.org.
The exclusive limited release. All the newest, most advanced Tempur-Pedics. Tempur-Pedic Advanced. Immersive wireless surround sound. Relaxing wave massage. Auto snore response. Breakthrough science. Deepest sleep. Double stacked Tempur-engineered coils. 30% more advanced Tempur-conforming support. Advanced Ergo Adapt. Pressure relief from aches and pain. New Tempur technologies. Continuously cools and ventilates. Exclusive limited release. Unrepeatable savings. Free financing. Free white glove delivery. And stay cool with free Yetis. Exclusive limited release weekend of the newest Tempur-Pedic Advanced at Hanes.
This is the Heavy Hitters Power of More.
If you get injured in a car crash, you're going to want to have it. It means you'll get more attention, more service, and more money.
Injured in a car crash?
Call the Heavy Hitters and get your power of more.
250-5000.
Thank you for staying with us. Right now, our 13 News Now weather vehicle is live out in Suffolk. Here's a live look there, stopping near a park here. We want to remind you, though, there are still tornado warnings in Surrey and James City County. We'll get the latest on that weather in just a minute.
All right, and we do have some viewer photos in Suffolk showing the skies over the city. Take a look. I'm no meteorologist, but I do see a cloud there. So this is from Joey Brewer. It's a photo, a picture towards Godwin Boulevard. Wow, what a shot. Now take a look. Matthew Spencer also has a photo. Here we go. Here's another one. Look at those clouds. This is in Suffolk from Route 58 West, just past Manning Bridge Road. Thanks so much for sharing these photos. Continue to do it while it's safe. Do not go out into a storm. But if you can safely take photos and share them with us, we will share them on air. Thank you so much, guys.
Of course, and while Tropical Storm Debbie continues to roll into the area, people are worried about potential flight cancellations and delays. Brianna Fallon is live at Norfolk International Airport, where travel seems to be moving smoothly for now. Brianna.
Yeah, so Philip, Dana, right now there's a few delays here and there, but nothing out of the ordinary, according to the airport spokesperson Chris Jones. But with a possibility for cancellations and delays, it's important to stay flexible.
Jim Kippenham works with travelers on a day-to-day basis.
I have clients all up and down the East Coast.
This week, with Tropical Storm Debbie making its way up the coast, air travel can get a little risky.
Most important thing you can do is be flexible.
Whether it's shifting your travels to the next day, finding an alternate route to your destination, or even canceling your trip altogether, it's important to have a backup plan if a flight gets delayed or canceled.
Everybody's in the same boat. Plane, whatever. And of course, if you've purchased travel insurance, definitely review that to see what your coverage is.
When there are cancellations, Kippenham says typically the airline will help reschedule a new flight at no extra cost.
Most of them will automatically reschedule you into the next available flight that they have for you that's going where you're going.
Luckily, right now at the Norfolk International Airport, things are moving smoothly. But if a flight does get delayed, Kippenham advises people to still get to the airport 2 to 3 hours before the original departure time.
Whatever storm, either breaks up or passes, or, they determine that they can do something, and then they'll go right back to the original time.
Again, things are moving along pretty smoothly here, but with the storm on the move, that could change at any given time. In Norfolk, Brianna Fallon, 13 News Now.
Brianna, thank you for that update, and be sure to stick with 13 News Now on air and online as we give updates on Debbie's track and the updates from Norfolk International.
All right, now back to Norfolk, where the city is preparing to feel the effects of Debbie throughout the night. Casey Baylor spoke with the city's emergency management coordinator to learn more.
As city officials continue to track Tropical Storm Debbie, several crews are on standby across Norfolk, hoping the remnants of that storm don't cause any problems throughout the day.
We are thankful that the track is faring well for us.
Though earlier in the week, the thought of a tropical system headed near Hampton Roads brought some concern for Norfolk leaders.
It's been so unpredictable with the path of Debbie, so we were challenged in being prepared for everything and anything with Debbie.
Daniel Hudson, the city's emergency management coordinator, says the city could see heavy rain through the evening. It comes after morning showers left standing water on flood-prone streets.
We've got our public works crews out there pumping out the drains and cleaning the ditches.
And several other crews are out monitoring conditions.
We have our utility crews on standby. Our parks and rec crews are on standby, ready for any tree emergencies.
He says the National Weather Service is predicting winds up to 20 miles per hour.
We could see some wind gusts into the lower 30s tonight.
Hudson adds the city could see a half-inch of rain for the rest of Thursday and about an inch on Friday. In Norfolk, I'm Casey Baylor for 13 News Now.
All right, let's get another check on the forecast now. Meteorologist Evan Stewart is here with us. Evan, you have been busy all afternoon on this. And, I spoke with FEMA yesterday, and they had told me don't underestimate this storm. They said it's a tropical storm, but it's important to be weather alert. And you proved that with the weather watches and warnings.
And every single storm is different. You know, we say not to compare storms because, you can say, well, this was a tropical storm and that was a tropical storm. But every single storm is different and can bring different effects. And what we've seen with this one so far has been a lot more of those spin-up tornadoes. That's why several days ago we issued today and tomorrow, we declare them weather alert days to give you that information ahead of time that we would see the potential for severe weather. And that's what we've seen so far this morning and this afternoon. And we have this tornado watch that'll continue to run until 8 o'clock tonight. Again, I expect it to be extended. There are certain requirements as to how long a watch can be in effect that the National Weather Service has to follow. This one was in effect through 1 o'clock. It was expanded until 8 o'clock, will likely be expanded again later tonight. And as we take a look at radar, the warning that we had earlier for Surrey County, James City County, and just the very edge of Williamsburg has expired as of 4:45. Currently, there are no tornado warnings for Hampton Roads. There is a warning down here just towards the north of Raleigh, right along Interstate 85, but that's it. We are getting a little bit of a break. There have been some of these heavier downpours. We have one right now moving through Southampton County and Sussex. And as I mentioned earlier, we had the warning earlier for Surrey County. Now some of the heaviest of the rain crossing the James River into James City County right along Highway 5. You can see it right there from Eastover up towards Two Rivers Road, just west of First Colony and west of Colonial Williamsburg over towards Centerville. And we're not seeing any kind of rotation like we were earlier. So that's certainly some good news. Again, mentioned some of this heavy rain from Franklin through northern Southampton County towards Barrett Corner, Beals, Black Creek. That is continuing to lift towards the north and will approach Wakefield and Ivor along 460. Some of the heaviest of the rain now. Again, Sedley Road over towards Rosemont Road, Black Creek, up towards Appleton Road and Berlin. And we'll continue to see some of these rounds of showers and a few embedded thunderstorms as we go through the later evening and the overnight. Here's Futurecast. This is sort of a depiction. It's not always perfectly exact as to where thunderstorms would be, especially in these types of situations, but the general idea, it will sort of be these bands, there'll be breaks, you'll get a tropical downpour. Might be quite a few breaks later this evening into the overnight. Muggy and warm with temperatures in the 70s. And then tomorrow, all of our computer models have been pretty consistent over the past couple of days of calling for like another couple of lines, even moving through during the day on Friday. That's why tomorrow is also a weather alert day. We could see this line pushing through around midday into areas of Hampton Roads. This is several runs of the computer.